Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode number of Chasing Labels. This is Chasing Labels spine number, episode number 195. I'm here along with you on a Monday night in, I would say, mid-July, early mid-July, the 13th, here at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we have another episode here. If you are not familiar with what we do here on Chasing Labels, not familiar with the Chasing Labels world, if you will, this is I would say, bi-weekly show. Yeah, it happens every 2 weeks. And basically, we go over many of the announcements in the world of boutique label, home media, home entertainment, home video, if you want to call it that. It's not everything in the world of the boutique labels, but it is most of it. It's most of the heavy hitters. Many of them you probably know or follow, for many of you probably collect. It's mostly things that I'm interested in, things you may be interested in, or things I just find interesting in general, or things I'm eventually going to add to my collection. It could be any of those things. It could be all of those things. I really don't know. Kind of making most of this up as we go along, as the old Indiana Jones slogan or quote goes. But thank you all for joining me here once again, or for the first time, whichever way you do. Thank you once again. And we do have one commenter here in the comments. JB44 is here. Hello, Chaser. Let's add to our unwatched piles. Yeah. Basically, that's the way it is. Thank you for reminding me. So there is actually going to be another episode of the unwatched pile coming up this weekend on the 18th. It will be me and Connor Moriarty, as well as Stephen Billings. We will we will be on here picking out a movie from our unwatched pile, watching and then pairing it up with another movie in our collection that we've already seen. That would make a nice double feature pairing. We just did one recently with our friend Ian Schultz. Ian was supposed to be a guest here on Chasing Labels, but he wasn't able to make it, unfortunately. So he will be joining us here sometime in the future on another episode. We just keep on rolling here. So there, of course, will be many episodes, many spine numbers down the line. So he will be joining us on one of those. But for this episode here, before we get into it, there will also be another episode of Movies Down Memory Lane. Yes, finally there will be another episode of Movies Down Memory Lane here on the Chasing Labels universe on Sunday. So Saturday the 18th will be the Unwatched Pile, another episode of that, and then Sunday will be Movies Down Memory Lane, which we will be doing Memento. We will be talking about Memento. Of course, Christopher Nolan's new movie, The Odyssey, is coming out, I believe, this Friday in the U.S., the 17th, probably a little earlier for people who have early screenings, press people, the lucky influencers, the lucky people who get to see it early. But anywho, it's coming out really, really soon. I know a lot of people are buzzing about it. I'm a big Christopher Nolan fan, so therefore I am excited for it as well. So that will be what's coming up here on Chasing Labels. And yes, JB44 kind of hits the nail on the head in terms of other things I want to talk about before we get into all of these announcements. Sam Neill, the actor Sam Neill, passed away yesterday. And the news broke early this morning. And it was incredibly sad and unfortunate, and not out. I would say it's tough to say out of nowhere these days when it comes to people passing away, because it seems to happen so often, unfortunately. But Sam Neill, of course, is an actor whom I'm sure many of you know of his work. I'm pretty sure many of you have many of his movies in your collection that he's worked on. I know I do. I took out a few of them here in order to, memorialize him and his work. I also follow him on social media, on Instagram and stuff like that. Great Instagram follow if you are indeed on that format. But of course, Jurassic Park, I think, is where we first saw Sam Neill, at least many of us. This movie came out in 1993, the Steven Spielberg film. I was 6 years old when this movie came out. I saw this in the movie theater at the time. So I've known of Sam Neill since I was 6 years old, back in 1993. And this, of course, is one of the most well-known movies of the last 40 years. It's a movie that is cross-generational. It's been for It's been around for everyone. Of course, there's been many sequels. Sam Neill was he was in Jurassic Park 3, and then he was also in Jurassic Park Dominion, Jurassic World Dominion, I should say, which was the last of that trilogy. But now they've got other movies that they've been making, so it's the franchise is not ending. Basically, another movie that he was in that traumatized me as a child when I saw it, probably too young. This movie came out in '97. I probably saw it when I was about 10, 11, 12 years old, somewhere around there. Event Horizon, the Paul W.S. Anderson film. This movie is a horror sci-fi. It is there's a lot to talk about this movie, but this movie's been collected many times over. DVDs, VHS, Blu-rays twice. This is the collector's edition from Shout Factory, their Scream Factory release. There is a 4K of this movie, but it's missing the special features from this release. So if you want the movie with a good special features package, this is kind of the way to go right now until they come out with a 4K with all of the bells and whistles, if you will. But some other movies that Sam Neill has been in. The Piano. This is the Jane Campion film from 1993 as well. Interesting how this and Jurassic Park came out in the same year. Vastly different movies. Vastly different movies. This movie it is a very critically acclaimed film, starring Holly Hunter as well as Harvey Keitel. I believe Anna Paquin is in the movie too. I think she won an Oscar for this film. But this is The Piano. A couple of other movies that I do have here that I do have. Let me get it. In the Mouth of Madness, another movie from the mid-90s. This is John Carpenter's film from 1995. I'll say this over and over again. This is the best Stephen King adaptation that's not a Stephen King adaptation. It just feels like a Stephen King type of story, but just the madness, no pun intended, is dialed up to another level. This is the 4K UHD edition from Arrow that was just put out, goodness, recently, last year? I think last year. I always forget these things. I talk about them so much here on Chasing Labels that I always end up forgetting when these actually come out. Yeah, this came out last year. So that is In the Mouth of Madness. So there's so much more actually that Sam Neill has done. Oh goodness, on television work that he's done. There's also, he was in the Omen 3, which is what's called The Final Conflict. There is an Omen Scream Factory, Shout Factory set that I have that's in there. Oh, he was in The Hunt for the Wilder People, which is a Taika Waititi film. Hunt for the Wilder People is a movie that I reviewed here actually on the channel. It is on here. It's buried in the movie reviews that I used to do here. And it's one of the ones that got the most views, actually. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it's just because it was an indie film and not a lot of people watched at the time, so there weren't a lot of reviews for it as opposed to some big-time blockbuster or whatever. But that movie review is one of the most viewed movie reviews I ever did here. He did multiple genres of films, as you can see here by just what I showed. He did everything from dramas to sci-fi to fantasy, everything. And one here that actually I'm glad Josie mentioned, Josephine DeMarco here in our comments mentioned Merlin. Yeah, he was in a movie called Merlin, which is of course based on fantasy. JB Movies Club. I'm watching In the Mouth of Madness in the background right now. What a coincidence! What a coincidence! It's a great slip. He also said that's a great slip on Event Horizon. It is. Yeah, it really is. That's actually a really good slip cover. I don't know if this one came with a reversible. It's got the same on the inside. It does have a reversible sleeve. I may switch. I always forget to switch these. So that's the reversible sleeve with the original poster art, which I think is just as cool. You see the ship, I think the Event Horizon right here. That was the slipcover falling over. I'll switch this now, actually, while we're talking about Sam Neill. Yeah, I've always been a big fan. Every time he's shown up in a movie or TV show, I was like, oh, I know this person. He used to do also commercial work as well. Like I would see him doing commercial work in the 90s. He did one, I think it was either for a toothbrush or mouthwash or Listerine or something like that, where it was a very somber commercial where he was like just monologuing to the camera about the greatness of this product that he was showing off, and he was giving that Sam Neill stare towards the camera, deep, serious voice, and it was like, I don't even know what this guy's selling, but I kind of want it. Um, it's yeah, he's what a loss. I know recently he had a battle with cancer, a blood cancer, and recently, as of I think this spring, he was declared cancer free. I know his family who announced his passing said that he was indeed cancer free. So whatever he passed from was not cancer, uh, which uh, which these things happen. And so, as someone who's had cancer themselves, the treatments for it um, create a lot of complications, a lot of health complications as a result of them. So you can pass away from a health complication due to the treatment you got to treat cancer. I mean, we've seen things happen like that all the time. I mean, especially when it's terms of exposure to chemical medications like chemotherapy, radiation treatments, stuff like that that's been around for years. A long time exposure to those things and long time effects to those things can lead to other health complications later on. I know I have a host of them myself, and I know a lot of other cancer survivors have them as well. So I think they will eventually announce what he passed away from. It obviously, since he passed away literally within the last day, they want to keep things rather private for now, which of course you have to respect, for the family's sake as well. JB44 mentions another movie that I actually need to get called Dead Calm. Dead Calm is a super underrated like 90s tight thriller that all takes place on a boat. It's him, Billy Zane. Oh, I forgot who the actress is in that film, but it's essentially a remake of Roman Polanski's Knife on the Water, and it's really good. There's a Blu-ray available for it. I said 90s. It came out in 1989. I think that's Nicole Kidman. Yeah, so it's Nicole Kidman, Sam Neill, and Billy Zane all on a boat, and it's this really tight like psychological thriller, if you will. The Blu-ray is available right now for like $9. It's super cheap, put out by Warner Brothers a long time ago. That could use a nice remaster, even just a Blu-ray remaster would be nice. Do I see it happening anytime soon? I don't know. Like I said, the Blu-ray is quite there. JB44 also mentions, I believe JB44, you've mentioned this before. He's a cancer survivor as well, and he also mentions several medical issues that he has. I have neuropathy in my feet and other issues, syndrome and stuff. Yeah, I've got a host. I got a lot. It's a lot of things. Um, and they grow over time. Like they change over time. I've talked to many of doctors and specialists basically saying that, when it comes to the treatments for cancer, radiation, stuff like that, things can pop up over time. Basically, they don't really know. It really depends on a case by case basis. So those of you who are chronically ill, you are not alone in dealing with all of those things, dealing with all of the medical issues and whatnot. But another passing, I know, not moving on from Sam Neill, another passing that was incredibly sad over the last 2 weeks or so was Tony Raines. Tony Raines, who's a name I've mentioned so many times here on Chasing Labels over the last 5.5 years, or 5 years really, that we've been doing this, because it hasn't been quite the halfway mark. I think our first episode was March of 2021, so it's been 5 years and 3 months, if anybody's keeping track. But Tony Raines, who was a film scholar, historian, author, he wrote about film in many publications. He wrote books. A lot of one big publication he wrote for was Sight and Sound magazine, and also he wrote several books around certain subjects. Typically, his expertise was in East Asian cinema, so you've seen him pop up on many releases dealing with those movies over time. I mean, I was just looking at a list of DVD commentaries he did, and so many of them actually pop up on Criterion releases. But he, of course, worked with so many other labels. He worked. His special features would pop up on Eureka, on Arrow, Radiance. He would pop up everywhere, and his work would just keep resurfacing over time. I watched a video of him today talking about Edward Yang's films, and I know I think he yeah, he's in this set here as well. The recent release from Radiance, I just happen to have Radical Japan, the films of Nagisa Oshima. His work is on here. It says audio commentaries by Sam Deegan, Tony Raines, and Jasper Sharp. So his commentaries are on this as well. I think he did one for um Seven Samurai. He did one for Yi Yi. He did so many other special features for so many East Asian films over time. Let me see if I can get. Yeah, what's Killers of not Kill oh, what's the one with Bong Joon Ho? Well, he did talk about Parasite as well. Let me see. Excuse me. Excuse me again. Let's see. Memories of Murder. That's what it is. I couldn't pick it up. Memories of Murder. His name is on that release from Criterion. Like I said, Seven Samurai. So many other East Asian films. Even in the Shaw Brothers box sets that have been released through Arrow, I know his name's popped up in those. The Eureka releases, everything from Golden Harvest to Shaw Brothers to the Hong Kong cinema of the 80s that we've talked about, the Golden Princess releases we've been getting. His name's popped up there. He's been everywhere, all over these releases. So truly a incredible loss to the cinema world, to the cinephile world, to movie collecting world, to just movie world in general. The late great Tony Raines. So many, just like I said, so many, too many to enter here. And if anybody can find a good database to where all of his work is, please let me know. I found his Wikipedia page, but those are always incomplete. Those didn't have everything that he's worked on, just most of the stuff he did with Criterion. But needless to say, let's get into what we get into here on Chasing Labels. Let's talk about the releases, and I do want to start kind of where we left off last time. Our last episode or spy number 194 was the episode we had with our good friend Rachel Belwar, which almost broke the record for longest episode for Chasing Labels. And literally the next day, there was already the Vinegar Syndrome and partner label announcements. So that is where I think I will start. Might as well start chronologically. Typically, I save these for the last part of an episode here for Chasing Labels, but I thought I would switch it up since I happen to have the energy to talk about all of these now, as opposed to 3 hours from now, where I may not have the energy to do so. So recently, Vinegar Syndrome had their halfway to Black Friday sale. They had it over the weekend. And they had announced a bunch of stuff that they were coming out with, like all their mystery titles were all revealed. And then also after that, in the first week of July, they had basically another sale going on where they were announcing like a couple of new titles every day and all kinds of stuff. So just to pare all of that down, we'll start with Vinegar Syndrome proper first, and then we'll go to the partner labels. And there are quite a lot of them, so please bear with me. I didn't get to see everything. I saw most of these, so we'll get into the ones I did see. So first up here, they're from their VSU line, their Vinegar Syndrome Ultra line. We have I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, which is it's a blaxploitation film, or it's a blaxploitation homage film. Then we have the movie Body Snatchers, which is being put out in 4K by Vinegar Syndrome proper, so from their main line. And then we also have Night School, which is a 4K release. We have Lady in White, which is a 4K release, and we have Faces of Death 2. Now, they recently put out the first Faces of Death in 4K as well, so I guess they figured we might as well put out the sequel. And apparently there are like 5 of these movies. I didn't realize there were so many of them. Then we have, from their Vinegar Syndrome archive line, we have The Executioner Part 2. We have I Live Here Now, which is from their VSP pictures. And then from their Vinegar Syndrome Labs line, their VSL, we have The Land of Night. Reviver is their mystery title. So it's a title that you don't really know it until you get it, which is it's a bit of a gamble from them. But I know a lot of people are Vinegar Syndrome purists, and they buy everything from them, so they'll take a flyer on that. From Cinematograph, we have 54. And then that's about it. And then from Something Weird and District Picks, we have The Ultimate Degenerate plus 1,000 Pleasures. But starting off here, we're going to start with I'm Gonna Get You Sucker. I've known about this movie for a very long time. I used to see this movie all the time when it came to DVD hunting, movie hunting. This would always be on DVD at various stores. It would be in like the indie section, comedy section, if you will, because it really is like an action comedy satire of black exploitation. So let's see. So when his brother Junebug winds up dead under mysterious jewelry-related circumstances, Army Sergeant Jack Spade returns to his city to find out what really happened. Finding his family harassed by the flunkies for the local crime lord, Mr. Big, Jack turns to the legendary neighborhood hero of his youth, John Slade, for help in avenging his brother. It's going to take more than one local hero to get the neighborhood cleaned up, but luckily Slade's old ass kicking pals, Hammer, Slammer, Fly Guy, and Kung Fu, Joe are all eager to help. That is, if Jack can stop his mama from doing the fighting for him. Yeah, this movie it takes all of the elements of blaxploitation from the 70s, transports it to like 1988, and what you have here is just a great loving homage done in a satirical way. This movie, you have to be relatively well versed in black exploitation genre in order to kind of appreciate what it's going for, or else the jokes aren't going to hit, the references aren't going to hit, the actors you may not recognize, for example. I forgot who's in, like Isaac Hayes is in the movie. And I thought for some reason, Chris Rock pops up at one point. David Alan Grier pops up at one point. This movie is done by the Wayans family. Specifically, it's directed and starring Keenan Ivory Wayans, who's the older brother of Marlon Wayans and why am I forgetting his name? Why am I forgetting the other Wayans brothers' name? Oh, Sean. Yeah, Marlon and Sean. And of course, Damon Wayans. Of course, there's Damon Wayans Jr., who's Damon Wayans' son. But this is, this is 1988. This was before, I think, In Living Color would come out, which was their sketch comedy series that so many people were in there that you'll recognize, including Jim Carrey, as well as Jamie Foxx was in there too. And this was really, there was a boom of black entertainment in the 80s and 90s that really happened both on the screen and on television as well. Like I mentioned, In Living Color, and is so much stuff. Nothing. Hold on. Let's see, hold on. My mind is just absolutely. It's already kind of slow today, and yeah. So In Living Color was that was the television series before. I used to watch that in the 90s actually. So In Living Color, and also what was? Let's see, yeah, it is In Living Color. What was I? I was thinking of a different show. Yeah, In Living Color is the sketch comedy show. Yeah, yeah. So of course the Wayans have gone on to, that family's gone on to produce and write and direct a lot of things. Specifically, most recently, the Scary Movie franchise. The Wayans brothers did Scary Movies 1 and 2. They didn't do 3, 4, and 5. They did the most recent one, the kind of revival of that series of movies. And of course, there was the Wayans Brothers show back in the 90s on the WB network. I remember watching that growing up. And yeah, there's just a lot of stuff that they've been involved with over the last 25, 30 years. But I'm Gonna Get You Sucker is one of their earliest forays into the entertainment world. But let's get into what the special features are in here. For I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, I'm glad I've actually never bought this and added it to my collection, because now it's available in 4K. So it's a 2-disc set, 4K UHD, regular Blu-ray, Presented in Dolby Vision, newly scanned and restored in 4K from its 35mm original camera negative. New commentary track with scholar Dr. Artel Great. Commentary with a message. It's 17 minutes long, and an interview with producer Peter McCarthy. Letting Us Do Us, an interview with actress Dawn Lewis. There's also Outrageous Visions, an interview with production designer Catherine Hardwicke. Wow. Catherine Hardwicke, for those of you who don't know, directed the first Twilight movie. But she was a production designer before she was a director. There's an interview with composer David Michael Frank. There's an interview with editor Michael Miller. Interview with actor Antonio Fargas. And there is Defying Genre, re-examining I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, an interview with scholar Raquel J. Gates, associate professor at Columbia University. Making of I'm Gonna Get You Sucker. Additional interviews and B-roll stuff, 40-page perfect bound book with essays by film historians Jordan Searles, Quatoya Murray, and Robert Daniels, limited edition only. I know Robert Daniels. He's done a couple of special. He's a critic that I follow, and he's also done some writing on some other films as well. But I'm Gonna Get You Sucker. Yeah, the VSU release. There hasn't been a lot of VSU stuff that I've been wanting to get recently. This is definitely one I want to get back into that sub-label line that Vinegar Syndrome does, which is really their elite line, to be quite honest. Them and Cinematograph do really great work. Probably my two favorite labels within the Vinegar Syndrome world. I'm just looking over at my the VSUs that I do have. I used to want to collect all of them, but then they started putting out VSUs and movies that I wasn't really a big fan of, so I just kind of stopped getting them along the way. But moving over to another movie here, and this is from the regular line, straight up Vinegar Syndrome, Body Snatchers. This is an Abel Ferrara film. This is Abel Ferrara doing his version of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. That is what this movie is. So the third feature film adaptation of Jack Finney's Invasion of the Body Snatchers, following films by Don Siegel in 1956 and Philip Kaufman in 1978. Those, I think, are remembered more so than this adaptation. 1993's succinctly titled Body Snatchers serves as the major studio debut for noted indie stalwart and provocateur Abel Ferrara, featuring a newly assembled Ferrara's regulars, screenwriter Nicholas St. John, editor Anthony Redman, cinematographer Boyan Bozelli, and composer Joe Delia. Alongside a game ensemble cast that also includes Arlie Ermey, Forrest Whitaker. It says Body Snatchers is a bold adaptation of an iconic story devised for a Gen X audience. Vinegar Syndrome is proud to present Abel Ferrara's oft-overlooked sci-fi thriller in a new 4K restoration, accompanied by the new interviews with the crew, including Ferrara himself. That's really awesome to see. This movie is kind of all set on an army base, and it's and the alien body snatching is happening kind of all focused on from a military perspective, which is rather interesting because we really didn't quite see that in the other adaptations. What we saw in the other adaptations was what would take place in a civilian set, from a people set, like in small towns, family members being body snatched and all this kind of stuff. This is like, what happens if the aliens start doing it with military, and the military now have access to soldiers and military weaponry and things like that? A nice little interesting take on that. But this movie, this edition here, is 2 discs. It's a 4K in Dolby Vision with high dynamic range. Newly scanned and restored in 4K from its 35mm original camera negative. New commentary track with author and critic Alexandra Heller Nicholas. That's always cool. Who Are the Good Guys? An interview with director Abel Ferrara. The First Cut Is Mine. An interview with editor Anthony Redman. Adults in the Room. An interview with second unit director Phil Nielsen. And then The Brass Ring. An interview with composer Joe Delia. And then a 40-page perfect bound book with essays by film historians Elena Lazick, Willow Catlin McClay, and Glenn Kenny. So this is an interesting addition, in my opinion. If you're a big fan of Abel Ferrara, you've been trying to get all of his work, because a bunch of his stuff has been getting new releases lately, like so much of his work. Several of them through here on Vinegar Syndrome, which I find to be fascinating. And I know his work's been spread around from Oh goodness, from different labels that we've talked about here, like Miss 44 got a release from Arrow, um, and I his vampire film from the 90s, with yeah, his vampire film from the 90s, completely blanking on it, actually, was released through Arrow as well. A lot of Abel Ferrara has been released through Arrow, some here through Vinegar Syndrome. So his work's been getting re-released a lot lately. So if you've been grabbing these up, chances are you're going to want to buy this one as well. Um, an interesting provocateur of a director. That's a good way to say it. His work is not for everyone, and sometimes his work is rather different, and sometimes it can be rather eclectic. Like Miss 44, Miss 45 is an interesting rape revenge film. And then, like you said, you have this kind of black and white neo noir vampire film that he did in the 90s. And then you get, I want to say he also did King of New York as well. Let me see. That's a movie I've been wanting to get so badly over the last few years. There's an Arrow 4K of that, and there's a Arrow, and then there's a Lionsgate Limited Steelbook 4K of it as well. That's the movie starring Christopher Walken, as well as David Caruso, as well as Lawrence Fishburne, from 1990, King of New York. If you haven't seen this movie yet, check it out. It's really really good. Um, yeah, so let's move on from Body Snatchers over to what I've seen next, and this is Night School. Movie not I remember seeing this movie out on Blu-ray for the longest time, and I saw it everywhere. And it's, um it's a slasher film directed by Ken Hughes. Uh, Ken Hughes also directed Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, the beloved musical starring Dick Van Dyke. This movie is not that. This movie is quite the opposite of that. In Boston, a young female teacher's aide is found decapitated in the playground, her head discarded in a nearby bucket, bearing striking similarities to a murder that took place the week before. Harvard educated Lieutenant Judd Austin is brought into the case, who quickly establishes that the latest victim has been enrolled in evening classes at Wendell College, a local girls' school. As suspicions fall on anthropology professor Victor Millet, whose extracurricular liaisons with his students are well known, the black motorcycle helmet wearing Gurkha blade wielding killer strikes again and again, each time decapitating a young woman connected with the school and disposing of the head in various places. So what we have here is a good old fashioned 1981 slasher film. This time, in typical slasher or 80s slasher fashion, the victims are all women, and this happens to be women in all girls college, and all of the murders are kind of exactly the same, or they're all similar. So you have this detective who's hot on the case, and you've seen these types of movies before. Chances are, if you've seen other slashers, so nothing really breaking the mold here. I just find it incredibly interesting that the director of both the original Casino Royale and Chitty Chitty Bang Bang directed an 80s slasher film for um, for special features, it's a 2-disc set, 4K, Blu-ray, Dolby Vision high dynamic range, newly scanned and restored in 4K from its 35mm original camera negative. There's a new commentary track with the associate producer, stuntman, and film historian Brian Thomas Norton. A new commentary track with director of photography Mark Irwin and film historian Brian Thomas Norton. Headhunter, an interview with actor Leonard Mann, an interview with actor Joseph R. Sakari, and an interview with stuntman Jeffrey Levitt. And that is it. But still, if you're into 80s slashers, chances are you may like this one. It's kind of by the numbers. You can kind of predict who the killer is pretty early on in the movie. I won't give anything away, but yeah, it's pretty predictable. Now, Lady in White, I've seen. I just don't remember when. I probably saw it for Chasing Labels, for a Chasing Labels announcement a while ago. That's probably my guess. It says in 1962, 9-year-old Frankie Scarlett enjoys a homespun childhood in a rustic western New York town. The entire community gets into the spirit of Halloween, but then two bullies prank Frankie by locking him in his school cloakroom, leaving him trapped for the night. Alone and afraid, His slumber is interrupted when the ghost of a little girl appears, and Frankie witnesses the specter of her murder by an unseen assailant. Later, while recovering at home, the girl's ghost appears to him again. With help from his older brother, Frankie begins investigating the circumstances of her death. He soon discovers that her murder was one of several unsolved crimes connected to a local child killer. Okay, so you've got this vengeful spirit coming back from the dead, or several vengeful spirits coming back from the dead, and this young child is for some reason being exposed to this, and has to figure this all out. I remember this movie now. Now that I read the synopsis, it's kicked into gear. I remember talking about this here on Chasing Labels before. Lucas Haas is the young boy in this. I remember that. Yeah, it's all coming back to me. But this is a loaded release. My goodness, 4-disc set, 1 4K and 3 Blu-rays. The 4K has the movie with Dolby Vision high dynamic range, newly scanned and restored in 4K from its 35mm original camera negative, presented in 3 versions, 3 cuts of the movie. 126 pre-release director's cut, that's on the 4K. 118-minute extended home video cut, that's on the Blu-ray, and the 113-minute theatrical cut is on the Blu-ray as well. New group commentary track with writer-director Frank LaLoggia, alongside actors Lucas Haas, Joel Jacoby, and Len Caru? Yeah, Caru, for the pre-release director's cut. There's a new commentary track with the director, moderated by Scott Neumeier for the extended home video cut. New commentary track with authors Emma Westwood and Stephen A. Russell for the extended home video cut. There's an archival commentary track as well, Learning How to Fly, an interview with the actress Karen Powell. There's an interview with actress Lisa Taylor. There's an interview with actress Lucy Lee Flippin. There's an interview with actress Rose Weaver. Let's see, 75%, 25% editing. An interview with editor Steve Mann. Welcome to Willow Point, and a location featurette. Excuse me. There's a visual group commentary for the pre-release cut with the director and the actors as well. There are deleted scenes with the intro and commentary by the writer-director as well. That's 36 minutes long. Jeez. Behind-the-scenes footage. We have extended behind-the-scenes footage. That's 73 minutes of extended behind-the-scenes footage. My goodness, no wonder why they needed so many discs for this release. Intro for the 20th anniversary DVD release, so that would have been 2008 when that DVD came out. Promotional industry sales trailer, 40-page perfect bound book, multiple radio spots, theatrical trailer, TV spots, work print trailers, still gallery, reversible sleeve artwork. They went all out for this. Lady in White is the movie. Vinegar Syndrome is putting out a big deluxe 4K of it with tons of features. I would dare say this is the definitive release of that movie. Okay, I saw Faces of Death too. If you just for the sake of time, if you've seen Faces of Death, the original, it's more of the exact same. It's just random segments of things that have to do with death, and sometimes there's a narrative from some type of scientist, doctor guy over it, explaining things or educating us in some type of way about what we're seeing or what this nature of how it's connected with death, all of these things. I wasn't a big fan of the original first movie. I wasn't a big fan of this because it's just more of the exact same. The exact same. There's nothing really grander about it. I mean, this movie and its original, I think it's cool to see, just to say you've seen it and you can bring it up in conversation. This is me going off on a little rant recently. So, as many of you know here, I collect comic books as well. So I go to my local comic book store from time to time, check out their stuff, get my comic books, whatever, browse around. But I've known the comic book guy who works there. I've known him, goodness, I've been buying there for like 13 years. But anywho, he's a big horror movie guy as well. So I was telling him, hey, I just saw the movie Faces of Death. Vinegar Syndrome's putting out a 4K of it. And like, I asked him, hey, have you seen it? He's like, oh yeah, I have. I've seen it many times. And it's like, yeah, because people who are in the horror fandom have seen Faces of Death many times. They've seen Faces of Death 2 and then the sequels and whatnot. So it's kind of one of those things where like, it's cool as a conversation starter with somebody. It's not something I would buy and watch repeatedly. But it's a thing. It's a thing. It's an interesting experiment of a movie, and I guess its sequel is just more of the same. So it's a 2 disc set, 4K Blu-ray, newly scanned and restored in 4K. Alternate 78-minute US video version of Faces of Death, sourced from video. That probably doesn't look very great. Never before seen deleted scenes from the movie, footage from the assassination attempt on President Reagan, which was included in the home video versions of the Faces of Death. That's in there. I feel like that's also something you could see on YouTube, right? I feel like, or something. I don't know. There's a video trailer, reversible sleeve art, and that's Faces of Death too. Like I said, if you like the first movie, chances are the second one's going to be your bag. Unfortunately, I did not get to see The Executioner Part 2. I don't think I see I Live Here Now. I should probably bring up let me bring up my letterbox actually. I watched so many movies for this. I don't remember what I've seen and what I haven't seen. So let me bring up my diary. I don't know if Letterbox has been running slow for anyone else, but it's been running extremely frustratingly slow for me over the last month or so. It may be because I'm running an older browser here on my computer and I need to update the software on it. That could be an issue, but this is really the only site in which it runs immaculately slow. Um, all the other sites pretty much run as they normally do. So I don't know what the issue is with Letterbox. I know Letterbox is actually looking in the process of being sold to Netflix. Actually, is a possible candidate on buying Letterbox. I don't know what that would do for the format or for the app or for the website. That's just stay tuned, I guess. Stay tuned. That's just a little interesting thing. So let's see. Always looking up stuff here. Yeah, I did not get to see I Live Here Now, and I don't think I got to see any of these other ones. So I think we're going to, for the interest of time and energy, we're going to skip over to the partner label releases. I would definitely recommend also the Cinematograph release. I think Justin La Liberty has done some excellent work with that line. So that's definitely I would take a flyer on any of those releases. But over here on the partner label stuff, let's just run all these down and then we'll get into some of these that I would recommend, some of these that I did get to see, and all the details and stuff like that. So, excuse me, let me take a drink here before we dive in. So, from Dark Star, we have Positions. And from Shudder, we have Abraham's Boys, A Dracula Story. From Watermelon Pictures, we have All That's Left of You. From Circle Collective, An American Affair. From Delirium Home Video, we have Barbed Wire Dolls. From ETR Media, we have Boutique, To Preserve and Collect. I tried to find that movie to watch. It's not available to stream anywhere at all. From Muscle, we have Castration Movie Anthology 2, The Best of Both Worlds. Well, I guess. And then from Dark Sky, we have Citizen Sleuth. From Film Movement, we have Dead Pigs. From Dark Star, we have Death Cycle. From Shudder, we have Demon Disorder. From IFC Films, we have Descendant. From Club Super 8, we have Fantasy of the Deer Warrior. From Saturn's Core, Flesh Eaters from Outer Space. From Decanalog, we have The Frontier. From Icarus Films, we have Good Manners. From Connie, The House of 72 Tenants. From Delirium Home Video, we have Island of the Fishmen. From Film Movement, we have Jailbreak. From Bizarro, we have The Mad Monkey / Twisted Obsession. That stars Jeff Goldblum, and I actually did get to see that. This is a pre-Jurassic Park Jeff Goldblum, but post The Fly Jeff Goldblum as well. Interesting movie. From Utopia, we have Mermaid. From 1-2 Special, we have Mirage, number 3. From Club Super 8, My Trouble with Comics. From Film Movement, we have Peaches Goes Bananas. From VHS Hit Fest, we have Radio Free Steve. Let's see, from Several Futures, we have The Razor's Edge. I tried to find that to watch, not available to watch anywhere. Anytime you Google that movie, you either get the one from the 40s or the one from the 80s with the same title, starring the one from the 80s starring Bill Murray. Scobie Malone from Umbrella Entertainment. From Factory 25, we have The Show About the Show. From Wild Eye Releasing, we have Snow Shark, Ancient Snow Beast. From Wild Eye Releasing, we have Sodomaniac. From AGFA, or American Genre Film Archive, we have Teenage Riot Video Party. From Canadian International Pictures, we have Tiki Tiki. I tried to find that as well. Anytime Canadian International Pictures releases something, that's like the first thing I try to look to watch, and I couldn't find it at all. Not available to stream anywhere. From Yellow Veil Pictures, they have the movie Touch Me. From Awilla, The Voice of Hindra Job. And then from Kim Stim, Who by Fire, and then that is it. So that is all, and that's quite a lot. That's a lot to go through, and I didn't get to all of these. I got to many of them, at least the ones that looked the most interesting to me. Let me see if anybody else has seen any of these. Please, let me know what you think of them. But I guess I'll be working in reverse order like I like to do, starting here at the bottom and working my way back. The last movie I saw in preparation for Chasing Labels this week, which was the 27th movie I watched, and I kind of saved this one for last because I knew how traumatic it would be. I knew how heavy it would be. I knew, as somebody who has a lot of empathy, how it would affect me. And that is the movie The Voice of Hind Rajab. This movie was nominated for Best International Feature last year. It's a movie from 2025. As you can see here, the limited edition's already sold out. This movie was nominated for so many awards from so many award shows, film festivals, etc., etc. It was on many people's best of year lists from last year, and it's hard to describe this movie without people experiencing it for themselves, because it is something that is it's a how do I say this? It's a there is a movie reenactment of the real life situation that went on, but it takes elements from the real life event and incorporates it within the narrative. For example, the actors in the movie are people who they're actors, right? But the voice of the young girl in this is the actual voice of the young girl in it, in real life, which makes it that more harrowing, that more traumatic, that more just unspeakable horror, really. Let me see how they synopsisize this, because I'm not doing a good job of it. So, January 29th, 2024, Red Crescent volunteers receive an emergency call. A 5-year-old girl is trapped in a car under fire in Gaza. Pleading for rescue while trying to keep her on the line, they do everything they can to get an ambulance to her. Her name was Hind Rajab. So many of you probably are aware of this event, are aware of this story. It was in the news a lot throughout 2024, 2025, all the way up to this day. Of course, many of you who are aware of international politics, aware of politics in the Middle East. I mean, if you've been alive in the United States for the last 25 years, chances are you're aware of the complications of the political climate within the Middle East. I mean, the United States, specifically if you're from the United States, needless to say, September 11th happened when I was in the 8th grade. So people even, my age, slightly younger, grew up with the politics of the Middle East being in the public zeitgeist in some way. This specifically here is dealing with the conflict, the never-ending conflict between Israel and Palestine that's been going on decades upon decades now. And of course, a lot of it has been in the news recently, including this tragic, horrific death of this young 5-year-old girl. And this movie will, if you're an empath, if you have empathy, if you have a heart, this movie will absolutely destroy you. It's not so much a movie as it is a historical testimony of the harshness of the world that we live in. You know what I mean? It's really just a harrowing movie. Truly extraordinary. Truly extraordinary. It is available to stream in various places. It's available to stream on Hulu. Shockingly, Hulu for some reason has it with ads, which this is not the movie where you attach ads to. Like, if you're watching this movie about this horrific event, then all of a sudden an ad pops up for like laundry detergent. Not the best time. Not the best time. But anywho, It is available to stream on Hulu if you do indeed have Hulu, as well as be able to rent and stream in other places. But for special features here, um, we have Region A Blu-ray, uh, the Voice of Hindu Job panel at the UN headquarters in New York, interview with Christian Amanpour and Kawthar Ben Handia on CNN, interview with Democracy Now! There's a Q&A with Jonathan Glazer, Kawthar Ben Hania, Montez Malhiz, and Nadim Chakruha. Michael Moore and Kawthar Ben Hania at a Q&A, Jane Campion and Kawthar Ben Hania Q&A there. Shanak Sen and Katuar Ben Hani Q&A. Many actors and actresses put their names on this movie as executive producers. Like I believe Joaquin Phoenix, Anne Hathaway. Was it Anne? I'm gonna look this up. While I have you guys here, I might as well do it right. Let's see. And I know they put their name on it after the movie was made. I feel like a lot of celebrities, actors and actresses, and other producers, directors do that to, if they lend their name to a specific film, it gives the movie more notoriety. It gives the film a better chance to be exhibited in film festivals, more critics to watch it. Maybe it'll get the attention of certain distributors who want to bid to buy the movie for distribution. Certainly doesn't help. Certainly can't hurt when it comes to award season type buzz and whatnot. You've seen that happen with a lot of actors and actresses and producers and directors. Let me check the credits for this. Let's see. Here are the producers. I'm over on IMDb. So Alfonso Cuarón was a producer. Jonathan Glazer. Let's see some other names here that maybe Spike Lee's name is on the movie. Rooney Mara, that's who it was. Michael Moore. Let's see. Joaquin Phoenix, Brad Pitt. A lot of executive producers. I thought for some reason I thought Anne Hathaway, but I guess I was Rooney Mara. Yeah, I'm just looking at some of the other names. But anywho, just a lot of names were attached to this movie to get it out there because of its political context and things like that. And then to be quite honest, which we don't get into a lot of politics here on Chasing Labels because we're here to really talk about the movies, right? We're really here to talk about the movies, and obviously movies are political. Let's be real about that. But from a humanity perspective, I think this movie is incredibly important. Just from a human perspective, just analyzing the event as an event without the political context is important in and of itself. I mean, obviously, if you want to get into the political things behind it and all that kind of stuff, you certainly can. But just at its base level of just a human perspective is quite astonishing. But yeah, that's this movie. Let's move on to hopefully something a little more less heavy. Yeah, this movie just knocked me completely out. So let's move on to what else did I see here? Let's see. So I didn't get to see, like I said, I didn't get to see Tiki Tiki. I didn't get to see the ACT release, although this looked like kind of an anthology type of thing. Wild Eye I didn't get to see. Actually, there's 2 Wild Eyes. Wow. I didn't get to see a lot of these down here. And like I said, there was so much to watch. So I want to see Peaches Goes Bananas because I believe this is about Peaches. Let's see. Just want to quickly, for 17 years, director Mary Lozier has followed the trailblazing, provocative, and taboo-shattering career of artist and musician Peaches from her early life and her ascent towards becoming a queer feminist icon. Her story is one that has defied expectations and exemplified fearless exploration and rebellion. Yeah, I wanted to see it. It's relatively short at 73 minutes. There's an interview with the director, and then I believe there's an essay in the booklet, and that's about it. I was hoping that it was streaming somewhere, and it wasn't. Let's see. So what else did I get to see? Oh, here, we'll talk about The Mad Monkey, or Twisted Obsession, as the alternate title goes. So that Jeff Goldblum, he's getting into some twisted, obsessive relationships here. So, American screenwriter Dan Gillis, portrayed by Jeff Goldblum, based in Paris and reeling from a recent separation, receives a commission from producer Julian Legrand. In collaboration with ambitious young director Malcolm Green, who's portrayed by Dexter Fletcher. Dexter Fletcher was in Guy Ritchie's work. He was in like early Guy Ritchie's work, but Dexter Fletcher is also a director. Dexter Fletcher directed the movie Rocket Man, the biopic about Elton John starring Taron Egerton, which was excellent. That movie is so good. More people need to watch and appreciate how great that movie is. Uh, uh, Moving along here, but as Dan becomes entangled with Malcolm's sister, uh, Jenny, his agent Marilyn, and the project's bizarre erotic screenplay, his life unravels in a web of manipulation, incestuous secrets, and dangerous deception. So what happens here is you have Jeff Goldblum, who is a screenwriter, and he gets roped into doing this movie from this young experimental director who makes these very weird movies. And he wants Jeff Goldblum to write his next movie. And Jeff Goldblum is initially hesitant about it. He kind of backs out, but then once he sees the director's younger sister, he becomes infatuated by her to the point where he's like, I got to work on this movie now. They strike up a relationship. It becomes incredibly toxically obsessive, and psychological stuff starts happening between the two, and then the director involved in there somehow. It's like I said, it's a twisted obsession type of movie, an erotic film, if you will, with Jeff Goldblum as well in there. So let's see. For special features, 2K restoration from the original camera negative, original English soundtrack with optional newly translated English subtitles, To Dream So As to Film, new in-depth interview with the director Fernando Truba, a fantastic anomaly, new interview with Sitges Film Festival director Angela Sala, Dreaming About the Mad Monkey, archival behind the scenes featuring Fernando Truba, Jeff Goldblum, Miranda Richardson, Dexter Fletcher, and Lisa Walker. 16-page book featuring essay by film historian Kat Ellinger. Okay, that's pretty cool. And it looks like there's plenty of limited edition slipcovers available for this one. That is the movie The Mad Monkey / Twisted Obsession. Twisted Obsession is such a better title. I think I saw the movie Jailbreak. See. Yes, I have. So, yeah, this is a movie from 2017, directed by Jimmy Henderson. This is a martial arts film in the style of like The Raid 2, that movie The Furious that just came out. It's hyper violent, great martial arts action stuff like that. That's kind of this movie, but it's a lower graded version of all of that stuff. Like, it's not on the level of The Raid or The Raid 2 or these other kind of martial arts films of that kind. But let's see. A ragtag team of 4 tough-as-nails cops are tasked with escorting the notorious gangster Playboy to prison. When he is revealed to be a stool pigeon, the real mob boss, Madam Butterfly, puts a price on Playboy's head. This incites a swarm of hardened inmates to riot up across the never-ending maze of cell blocks in pursuit of the bounty. Trapped in the fray with their sleazy charge in tow, the officers must fight their way through a relentless gauntlet of violence, armed only with their wits and lethal hand-to-hand combat skills. Basically exactly what I just described. The movie's like 90 minutes long. It's tight, it's fun, cool action, not really much else going for it. Let's see, there's for special features, there's bloopers, deleted scenes, and making of the original soundtrack, music video, production diary. There's a booklet with new writing by Pierce Conran, and that's it. That's the movie Jailbreak from Film Movement. Let's see, what else did I get to see here? Nothing there. I saw The Frontier by Canal. This is an interesting, kind of tight, I would say thriller. Not really a thriller. It's because it's not really thrilling. It's kind of flat. That's kind of the main issue I have with it. But for special features, but for synopsis here, we have Lane Thought the middle of the desert would be the perfect place to disappear. Broke, bruised, and on the run, she finds shelter at the frontier of a forgotten roadside motel at the edge of nowhere. But when she takes a job from its guarded owner and meets the strange mix of guests drifting through, Lane begins to suspect she's stumbled into the middle of a dangerous scheme. A bag of stolen money is about to change hands, and if she plays it wrong, she might not live to disappear again. So she's wrong place at the wrong time. She's on the run. She's run away from a situation that we learn about in the movie. She ends up at this motel, the like hotel bed breakfast place in the middle of nowhere. It's essentially the Bates Motel, but with a restaurant diner attached to it. That's basically what it is. It's called the Frontier. A bunch of these people who were just involved in an armed robbery happen to all be meeting there for a money drop off because they had to get the money cleaned. And she decides she's going to get involved in there and try to get the money for herself. Not the best of ideas. It's a fine movie. Like I said, it's fine. Jim Beaver is in the movie, who I think is the best actor in the film, and Kelly Lynch is in the film as well. But I don't think anyone else is truly recognizable for the most part. It's fine. The movie's fine. It's an audio commentary here with the writer and director Oren Shea and co-writers Webb Wilcoxon, moderated by Eric Kane from 2016. Interviews with the actors Jocelyn Donahue, AJ Bowen, and Jim Beaver. 8mm behind-the-scenes footage by Elric Kane. Interview with composer Al Heinwin. Let's see. Interview with cinematographer Jake Keitel. Interview with screenwriter Webb Wilcoxon. Discussion between director Oren Shai and producer Donna Lustig. Condemned Oren Shai's 2009 short film, The Existential Motel Essay by David N. Meyer. So that is The Frontier, which is already down to standard editions. Well, it has been 12 days. That makes a lot of sense, as some of these still don't have the limited editions in stock. Let's see. So Demon Disorder and Descendant are available to stream. I didn't get to see those. Dead Pigs I did get to see. So I wanted to watch this for a specific reason. This is I believe, the feature directorial debut for Kathy Yan. Kathy Yan, who directed the Birds of Prey movie that came out in 2020. This is the movie that she directed in 2018. This movie stars Zazie Beetz, Mason Lee, Meg Lee, Vivian Wu. Let's see. The fates of an unlucky pig farmer, a feisty homeowner defending her property, a love-struck busboy, a disenchanted rich girl, and an American expat pursuing the Chinese dream converge and collide as thousands of dead pigs are found floating down the Huangpu River towards a modernizing Shanghai in Kathy Yan's debut feature. Yeah, she directed Birds of Prey. As you probably already know, many of you just heard, big comic book fan. I watch all the comic book movies, obviously. And of course, I watched Birds of Prey actually twice in theaters. I liked the movie that much. But getting to see, a director's previous work after seeing the one a work they had done that you're well aware of is an interesting kind of test there, if you will, just to see what things did they take from this movie, transporting it over to the movie that you know of. Could you see any parallels there? Do you see any parallels in directing styles, in aesthetics, in editing and pacing and stuff like that? This movie, different type of movie. It's kind of a tapestry of storylines of characters all meshing into one, which you do get a little bit of in Birds of Prey. A little bit of. You have Harley Quinn's story. You have the story of the other characters as well, and you have all of them kind of coming together, if you will. So there is a bit of a parallel when it comes to story-wise, now that I think about it. But for this release here, there are, unfortunately, not much in the way of special features. You have commentary with director Kathy Yan, and then behind-the-scenes footage, and a booklet with an essay by writer Ella Kemp, and that is it. This is from Film Movement. This is the movie Dead Pigs. It's available to stream as well, I believe. Let's see. So Citizen Sleuth, I got to see. This is a documentary about a true crime podcaster. So true crime has become a really big thing. True crime podcasting has become a really big thing. And this is about kind of about the processes behind the way in which this person specifically goes about constructing her true crime podcast. If you're into the show Only Murders in the Building with Martin Short, Steve Martin, um, you'll appreciate this a lot more, I guess. If you're a fan of true crime podcasts, you're probably gonna appreciate this one as well. So, Citizen Sleuth follows a true crime investigator led by Emily Nestor and her hit podcast, Mile Marker 181, as she delves into a mysterious death. As her audience grows into millions, Emily's search leads her to uncover a new truth. The film chronicles the rise and fall of an Appalachian podcaster in the age of new media. This came out in 2025, so it's relatively recent. And for special features, just an audio commentary with the director Chris Kasich and editor Jeff Gilbert. That is it. Not much. Not much. It's fine. It really all depends on how interested you are in the whole true crime podcasting thing. Uh, and essentially your mileage may vary. So ETR Media release, like I said, I wanted to watch because I'm just fascinated with documentaries about collecting, whether it's comic books, video games, movies, obviously. I'm just fascinated with the way in which people go about collecting and their passion behind it. But couldn't find it to stream anywhere. Really, couldn't find it at all. I didn't get to see this release here by Muscle. Let's see. Up here, I really wanted to watch. I really wanted to watch All That's Left of You, because All That's Left of You is another, I believe, Palestinian film that was critically acclaimed when it came out. But I did not get a chance to see it. It's also, I think, 2 hours and 20 some odd minutes long. So obviously dedicating a lot of time to that, it's not fortuitous when you're trying to watch so many movies to prepare for this. I did get to see An American Affair, though, put out by Circle Collective here. Let's see, there are a few limited editions left of this, but this is an interesting movie. It's a period piece. See, a Cuban Missile Crisis era, in Cuban Missile Crisis era Washington, so 1962, 63-ish, a 13-year-old boy's infatuation with mysterious female neighbor sets the stage for love, loss, intrigue, and the assassination of a president. This is very ambiguous, very ambiguous. So this movie stars Gretchen Mol. Gretchen Mol is an actress whom I think is rather underrated, and who is an actress that I've been a big fan of ever since she was on the HBO series Boardwalk Empire, the show that is set during 1920s Prohibition. Steve Buscemi's in that show. Michael Pitt was in that show. It's a show that was executively produced by Martin Scorsese. I think he directed the pilot as well. But Boardwalk Empire went 5 seasons, 4 or 5 seasons. And I've always been a big fan of it, and she was great in it. She was also in a Betty Page biopic, The Notorious Betty Page. I think that's actually the title of the movie, The Notorious Betty Page, who was the pinup girl of a time, I believe. Yeah, of the 1950s. The life of Betty Page, a 1950s pinup model and one of the first sex icons in America, who became the target of a Senate investigation because of her risque bondage photos. So Gretchen Mol played Betty Page. This movie came out in 2005. I think it was Mary Harron. Mary Harron directed this. Mary Harron, of course, directed American Psycho as well. I've always liked the writers. I've always liked Mary Harron. The writers for the screenplay were Mary Harron and Guinevere Turner. The Notorious Betty Page. That movie could use a nice new Blu-ray release if any partner label wants to do it or somebody. I believe it has one. Actually, let me look that up while I'm just spitting off game here. The Notorious Betty Page. Maybe it doesn't, because I'm looking and I'm not seeing anything. No. Let's see. It doesn't have any. It doesn't have one in the U.S. And I don't think it's got one. Yeah, nothing. Yeah, it's got a DVD release from 2006. And it's got a DVD release from 2007 in the UK, but it does not have a Blu-ray release anywhere in the world. Heck, there isn't even a listing for it on Blu-ray.com. Like not even like a blank listing or nothing. That's that's unfortunate. Anywho, that movie could use a Blu-ray release, but put that on your list of movies that need Blu-ray releases. The Notorious Betty Page, directed by Mary Harron, starring Gretchen Mol. But in this movie, Gretchen Mol plays a. It's actually this movie is actually based on a true life person who was um who was having an affair with JFK JFK around the time of his death. And this movie deals with this woman who, like I said, was having an affair with JFK, whose ex-husband was in the CIA. And this movie's dealing with kind of that in the background. Like it's there in the movie, but it's in the background. Like she's living in Washington D.C. so she can be close to the president. Her neighbor. The story is really told through the perspective of this young neighbor boy, portrayed by was it Cameron Burke? Let's see. Yeah, portrayed. Oh, Cameron Bright. Cameron Bright. Noah Wiley is in the movie as his father, and they're kind of like suburban white family of the 1960s, like kind of conservative, whatever the case may be. And this notorious woman basically moves in next door, and the young boy basically becomes infatuated with her. You know, he's a young kid, teenager. He becomes infatuated with an older woman. He starts doing work over at her house, and then he starts discovering like what her connections are with the president, and then like he starts seeing like the CIA guys start coming around and questioning her and bothering her and stuff like that. So he starts getting involved in all of that. So we're kind of seeing the events from his perspective. It's a fine movie. I actually rather enjoyed it. I thought Gretchen Mol was excellent in it. And yeah, it's if you're interested in anything to do with JFK, chances are you're going to want to check it out. Tangentially, really. But for special features here, all you get are deleted scenes and an official trailer, and there's a booklet featuring an essay by director William Olson. That is it. All right, so not much really to go on here. This movie came out in 2008. If that means anything to anyone, I just found that to be interesting how long it's taken for this movie to get a Blu-ray release. But like I said, I didn't get to see All That's Left of You, but I do want to click on it just because I want to make sure that I was right about it. Yeah. So this movie came out in 2025. Okay, so I thought it was older. It's not. Let's see. A Palestinian teenager is swept into a protest that changes the course of his family's life. Reeling from its aftermath, his mother shares the story that led them to that fateful moment, tracing the hopes and heartaches of one uprooted family over 7 decades. I believe this movie does go back and traces this family's roots back to um, the settlement of Israel post World War II, all of that stuff, and the establishment of the state of Israel and the uprooting of a lot of the Palestinians living in that part of the world at that time. I believe that's the trajectory of the plot of this movie. But yeah, this movie only has a special feature, a conversation with writer director actress Sherian Davis, and executive producer Mark Ruffalo. Okay, Mark Ruffalo, and it also has the unmaking of a 60-minute documentary directed by Bilal Khatib. Mark Ruffalo never one to shy away from a political film ever, or political tendencies. That is his thing. But moving along here, I did get to see the movie Abraham's Boys. This is also streaming on Hulu, and I think it's also streaming on Shudder. It's put out by Shudder. This is a slow burn of a movie. slow movie. So this is kind of a Dracula story, kind of not, kind of an alternate take. You'll see here. So when Max and Rudy Van Helsing begin to uncover the violent truths behind their father's history with Dracula, their world unravels, forcing them to confront their terrifying legacy. Yet again, another very ambiguous synopsis. So this takes place about 20 years after the events of Dracula. Dr. Van Helsing and his wife have moved all the way from Europe, all the way to the countryside in California, actually. So this takes place early 20th century, I would say, around that time. and they have two children. And these two children are naturally curious about their parents' lives before they were their parents. And the father is portrayed by Titus Welliver. Well, he's Dr. Van Helsing. And the mother is Jocelyn Donahue. And it's just it's a really slow burn of a movie. Not a lot of plot going on here. Everything is really underneath the surface of this film. Like, what is this movie actually trying to say? Is vampirism real? Were the actions of the Van Helsings like the appropriate actions at the time, given a retrospective look at it? All of these questions start kind of popping up for you as a viewer while watching the movie. And the movie never really answers a lot of those things, but you have to see the way in which the movie kind of goes along. Like I said, slow burn of a movie, even though the movie's 89 minutes. Don't know how you can make an 89-minute movie slow, but they did it. For special features, an audio commentary with the writer-director Natasha Kermani, cinematographer Julia Swain, editor Gabriel de Urost, and producer James Howard Herron. Video introduction to the film by writer Joe Hill, that is Stephen King's son. I think it's based on his book. Yeah, I believe it's based on his book. Or at least this is based on a book. I don't know if it's actually his book. But anywho, you understand what I'm saying. Booklet featuring new writing by film programmer and journalist Heidi Honeycutt. So that is it for that. And then, Positions. Now, this movie is actually good. Did not expect this movie to, one, have such positive reviews on Letterboxd, and two, actually live up to those reviews. I actually not heard about this movie. So the way in which people were describing this movie on Letterboxd is that it's basically Uncut Gems, but with cryptocurrency. And I understand that immensely after having seen it. If you are a fan of the Safdie brothers films, like Uncut Gems, like Good Time, even I would say Marty Supreme as well, even though that's one Safdie did that, not both of them. But you understand what I'm saying. If you like those movies with that kind of frenetic vibe to it, that uneasy nervousness, when you're watching a movie about somebody who's making dumb mistake after dumb mistake, and you're just this guy's killing me by being so dumb. This is the movie for you, but with cryptocurrency. Whereas in Uncut Gems, he was a massive gambler. In this film here, you got this guy who's essentially gambling, but with cryptocurrency. He keeps investing in cryptocurrency. And when you invest in those types of things, it's kind of like the stock market. It goes up, it goes down, basically randomly, if you will. And this guy keeps investing all of his money into cryptocurrency. And sometimes it hits and sometimes it doesn't. And every time he gets money, he keeps putting it into cryptocurrency. And the plot kind of goes along to where he loses all of his money. He has to start living with his cousin who just got out of prison. He's an incredibly awkward, cringeworthy guy. This movie's incredibly funny in a dark tone, in a dark, sad, black comedy type of tone, because this guy is, for the lack of a better term, he's kind of a loser. And the movie really exploits the comedy within that. Just to read what they have here: when perpetually upbeat factory worker Mike Alvarado drops his family's savings into the digital void of cryptocurrency, he strikes gold, or so he thinks. Mike's newfound fortune quickly transforms him from lovable screw-up to delusional kingpin, torturing his relationships with his girlfriend, his developmentally disabled brother, and his recovering addict cousin. As his portfolio plunges, Mike's addiction to volatility starts to look like every other form of self-destruction surrounding him. He's not only self-destructing, within himself by his actions, he's bringing down people around him. That's the one big thing I don't think people point out enough when it comes to certain diseases, when it comes to addiction and alcoholism, drug addiction, is yes, it is an individual thing. The ultimate victim of all that is the person that is doing it, but it can, hurt the people around them as well. And this movie is delving into that a little bit. This movie's from 2025, so obviously cryptocurrency is kind of relatively new. It's been around for what, like a dozen years now, maybe longer. But anywho, it's still very much a thing that people invest in. So it's rather contemporary. For special features, we have a director's commentary at the premiere featurette from Music Box in Chicago, and then the making of Positions. Um, that is it. Um, and yeah, that is, I think, everything from Vinegar Syndrome and their partner labels. A lot of stuff to go through, a lot of good stuff here that I got to see, probably stuff I didn't even get to see that's also good. Um, check out, all of their stuff. I'm pretty sure many of you collectors out there know about Vinegar Syndrome, know about their partner labels. I actually just recently got two of their stuff from one of their sales they had recently. I got Once for Warriors. That's from one of the partner labels. Um, and then I also got Streetwise. That's from another one of the partner labels as well. I believe this is from. Let's see. Wish they would say. This is from the Catalog, and I think this is from Film Movement. Let's see. Let's see. Once We're Warriors. Oh boy, this font is not helping me in the least bit. I believe it is. Yeah, I think this is from Film Movement. Um, yeah, because it's got the Film Movement symbol on it on the side, the insignia, the logo, if you will. But on the back here, it's got not the best type of font. It's an audio commentary with Alexandra Helen Nicholas and Josh Nelson on this. This movie is, talk about heavy movie. Once for Warriors, uh, with Tamora Morrison. Uh, yeah, so let's see where we want to move on from here. I say we go over to Warner Archive, but before that, um, I do want to make mention that I forgot to talk about one of the best Sam Neill films ever. Forgot to talk about that earlier. In Possession, um, this is one of like the crown jewels of movie releases of the last year, in my opinion. Specifically, for me personally, this is probably my release of last year, or one of my favorites of last year, I should say. The Second Sight 4K release of Possession, before Sam Neill was in this. They're actually making a remake of Possession that I think they're currently filming now, which is going to be interesting. Or they're going to be filming it soon. I know they've already done the cast for it. But anywho, another Sam Neill film, In Possession. I'm sorry, I completely forgot to bring that one up earlier. Let me put all my Sam Neill movies together. Let's see, I'll deal with that later. But Warner Archive had a plethora of announcements, ones that I was pleasantly surprised of. Let me see to make sure that Blu-ray.com actually had all of them, because they had a slew of announcements, and then they decided to add some more to it. And of course, in typical Blu-ray.com fashion, they decided to have an ad right in the middle of the page. Let me refresh it. Uh, let's see. So they are missing actually the two, which is fine. So there are two animated releases that they don't have here on this press release of a Scooby-Doo complete series. That was the 2010 through 2012 series. And then I think they're doing the Looney Tunes Vault Collection number 3 is also coming out as well. We don't talk typically about TV here, but I like to bring those up because I am going to be getting them eventually. So those two are not included on here, but the rest of the actual movie ones are. And there's also a 4K included. So another one of their 4K releases to join with The Searchers, High Society, and Get Carter, I believe, are the 4K releases from Warner Archive currently, if I do recall. They're also coming out. Oh, they don't. Do they have it on here? They don't have it. Oh, I'm gonna have to look this up separately. So they actually announced 2 4Ks. Out of the Past is getting a 4K release, and Auntie Mame as well. And they don't have the Out of the Past on here. I'll look it up. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna look it up now. Just because that's the one I'm looking forward to the most. Out of the Past. Let's see, here it is from Warner Archive. Let's see. Yeah, the Out of the Past 4K. We'll talk about this first because it's important. I've got my hold on, let me see. I'm just looking behind me right now. For those of you listening the audio, you can't see it because I have it behind me. There's the O's. Yeah, it's right there. I have it right next to Outland behind me. Out of the Past, a Blu-ray from Warner Archive. So it's getting a 4K UHD upgrade. It says arriving on the market on September 2nd. It will be released on 4K Blu-ray. Jacques Tourneur's classic noir Out of the Past from 1947, starring Robert Mitchum, Jane Greer, Kirk Douglas, Rhonda Fleming, and Richard Webb. This is quite honestly one of the greatest film noirs ever. For me, it's probably my second favorite film noir. My first being Laura, which I would love a 4K release of Laura. Like I would pray to the movie gods every single day for a 4K release of Laura. But for those of you who have never seen this movie, everything you want in a film noir, you'll find in Out of the Past. A tenacious detective, Robert Mitchum, spinning his wheels to make good. A drop-seed beauty in Jane Greer, up to no good. A moneyed mobster portrayed by Kirk Douglas with Shark's grin. Plus double crosses and fall guys, shadowy rooms, and bleak souls. Mitchum solidified his tough guy persona in this archetype, archetypal film noir, directed with memorable style and by the masterful Jacques Tourneur. He plays Jeff Bailey, a one-time private investigator walking the straight and narrow of small-town life until an acquaintance from his past pulls him back into the trouble he's left behind. Uh, Build my gallows high, baby, Bailey sneers as events stack up behind him. With dialogue like that and much, much more, Out of the Past builds its reputation high. Now meticulously restored and remastered from its original negative uh, as a 4K Blu-ray presentation with Dolby Vision, this seminal noir looks better than ever imagined. It's a 2-disc set, Blu-ray. It's a 4K and a Blu-ray, 4K restoration of the film, Dolby Vision HDR presentation, intro by Turner Classic Movies Noir Alley host Eddie Muller, who has been here on Chasing Labels. Feature-length commentary by film noir author slash specialist James Rossini. Audio-only special features. There's a Robert Mitchum radio appearances from the Hallmark Playhouse. That's probably Playhouse. That's got to be a typo. Suspense, Death at Live Oak. Suspense, Story of the Markham's Death. Kirk Douglas on Suspense Community Property. And then optional English subtitles as well. Like I said, this is my second favorite film noir of all time. It's one of the best ever. It's a must watch. A must watch, a must own. If you're a classic movie fan, chances are you've seen it. Chances are you've owned it on DVD, on Blu-ray, maybe even VHS. I know I've had it on Blu-ray for many years, and I've watched it many, many times. Robert Mitchum being one of my favorites. And yeah, this is highly anticipated release. One of my highly anticipated releases for the rest of the year. Moving back to their slate of releases, because this is where they will talk about Auntie Mame, which is also getting a 4K release. But the rest of the releases are for August, actually. So Sergeant Rutledge from 1960, Montana from 1950, All Through the Night from 1942, Pennies from Heaven from 1981, Torrid Zone from 1940, Forever the Complete Series from 2014, 2015, Wag the Dog from 97, The Human Comedy from 1943, The Bad Seed from 1956, The Wings of Eagles, Broadway Melody of 1938, and Auntie Mame. Sergeant Rutledge, I've seen before many years ago. In 1866, new fighting units are formed with the U.S. Cavalry, the courageous 9th and 10th Regiments. Plains Indians call them Buffalo Soldiers because of the bison coats they wear in winter. History, judging from these regiments' list of Medal of Honor winners, calls them heroes. Against this backdrop, legendary director John Ford crafts the story of Sergeant Rutledge, who's portrayed by Woody Strode, a 9th Cavalry officer on trial for rape and murder. Lieutenant Contrell defends Rutledge as witnesses give testimony revealing the sergeant's gallantry and the shocking truth behind the alleged crimes. Ford, who attacked racism in The Searchers, explores similar territory in this landmark Western, the power of which still rings out with uncommon force decades later. Obviously, incredibly contemporary because racism still exists, prejudices still exist, wrongful accusations still exist, all this kind of stuff, right? Uh, there's a new 4K restoration from the original camera negative. There's an audio interview, sorry, with TCM host Ben Mankiewicz and film historian slash author Donald Bogey. WB Cartoons, Hop Along Casualty, West of the Pesos, and an original theatrical trailer. So if you're a John Ford fan, time to add it to your John Ford collection. I know I will. Montana. This is a movie with Errol Flynn from 1950, and this is a movie uh, where he is a sheep rancher. He's an Australian sheep rancher. So he starts out in the movie with kind of an Australian accent, and then he definitely abandons it very quickly. He abandons it very quickly. So uh, Errol Flynn is like I said, Australian sheep rancher who moves to Montana, which is cattle country. People who live there, people who work there, only raise cattle, and they only want cattle to be raised there. They don't want any outsiders bringing their sheep, bringing these other animals, bringing whatever, their issues, their problems. They don't want any of that. So he's got to figure out a way for him to find and get some land in order to raise his sheep. And he's got to kind of go up against the prejudices that exist in this small town area of Montana and kind of, figure out a way for him to get his own land so he can raise his sheep. And he ingratiates himself with the local population, or tries to. He spikes up a romance with a local woman who owns a lot of land and all kinds of stuff. If you're an like I said, this is the theme here. If you're a fan of the Errol Flynn, chances are you've seen it. Chances are you may want to own it. Yeah, it's kind of a similar role that we've seen from Errol Flynn before. He's a gun wielding Western, leading man. He stars as character Morgan Lane, transplanted Australian sheepman who rides into cattle country, looking to buy grazing lands, and finds himself up against ranchers who would rather draw guns than welcome a woolly interloper. So you know the movie. It's a new 4K restoration from the original camera negative. Classic WB Western shorts, Oklahoma Outlaws, Wagon Wheels West, Gun to Gun, classic WB Joe McDoke short, So You Want to Raise, and a classic WB cartoon, It's Hummer Time. And also the original theatrical trailer, too. All Through the Night is a movie starring Humphrey Bogart. The ruckus in Europe, Churchill and Roosevelt can have it. Gloves Donahue is too busy laying his peepers on the Saratoga morning line or noodling out another way to rub up against considerable dough. But when someone bumps off the little old man who bakes Glove's favorite cheesecake, well, this means war. Following his triumphs in High Sierra and the Maltese Falcon, Humphrey Bogart had a great deal of fun taking on the change of pace role of Gloves, and the hijinks are winningly contagious in a spoof that pits him against Nazi spies. So it's gangsters versus the Gestapo, as this thing says here. So Humphrey Bogart is kind of a small time racketeering running mobster gangster guy, and the person who makes his favorite cheesecake, the only cheesecake he likes to eat, gets killed, and he tries to figure out what happened, who killed him, why they did it, and he ends up stumbling across a scheme of Nazis infiltrating local life, and he decides to combat it, if you will. And this movie came out in 1942, so it's right in the middle of World War II. And there were a lot of these movies during World War II, after World War II. This idea of the Nazis coming over to the United States and hiding amongst the people and living amongst the people, still keeping their ideals alive in small conspiracy groups working behind the scenes that are going to sabotage things. This is not necessarily a true work of fiction because, as we know, they've pretty much stayed around for the last 80 years. Anywho, there were other movies like this of that time. I'm thinking of Alfred Hitchcock's Saboteur. I'm thinking of Orson Welles' The Stranger as well, where it's kind of like evil in a small town lurking behind the scenes, stuff like that, and they happen to be Nazis. And This movie is one of those. There's a new 4K restoration from the original camera negative, feature commentary by director Vincent Sherman and Bogart biographer Eric Lax. Featurette called The Usual Suspects, The Craft of the Character Actor, vintage 1942 newsreel, WB Joe McDake's comedy short. So You Want to Give Up Smoking, classic WB cartoon, Lights Fantastic. Pennies from Heaven, I didn't get to see. I believe this is a musical starring Steve Martin. I know many people that I know have seen it, and uh, it's not viewed very positively on Letterboxd, I would say, in terms of ratings and reviews and stuff like that. I'm such a big Steve Martin fan. Chances are I'm going to watch this eventually, anyways. Uh, but the Torrid Zone I didn't get to see. Forever the Complete Series. I remember when this show was on. I believe this was a CW show. I want to say in 2014. It was like a one-hit wonder show. I know we don't talk a lot about TV here, but it was one of those. Wag the Dog. Now, this movie I've been wanting to see for like 15 years. Finally got to watch it. This movie is a political satire that's basically real now. I mean, I said it when I posted that I was watching it on Facebook. Most political satires have now become reality. That's the political climate in which we live in. Uh, time has created the fictional into reality. 2 weeks before re-election, the president of the United States, played by Michael Belson, is accused of accosting a Girl Scout. Before the news reaches the media, his advisors call in political spin master Conrad Connie Breen, portrayed by Robert De Niro. Specializing in image rescues, what to do, hire Hollywood producer Stanley Motz, portrayed by Dustin Hoffman, to create a war distracting public attention a war to create a war, distracting public attention from the scandal and rallying Americans to their president in surge of patriotic fervor. From acclaimed director Barry Levinson and writers Hilary Heineken and David Mamet comes this biting and prescient look at American politics in its relationship with the media. I mean, this might as well be made today. I mean, come on. This is a political tactic 101. Whenever there's a scandal going on, direct and deflect, right? Direct people towards something else, deflecting from the issue at hand. We see it today. I mean, it's right out of today's headlines. I mean, come on. And this movie, it's trying to be. It is comedic. It's comedic because of how outlandish this scheme is. And you're like, oh, this can't be real. But in reality, it is. It's more real than you would want it to be. Robert De Niro is great in the movie. Dustin Hoffman's great in the movie. The screenplay by David Mamet and Hilary Henkin is very good. It's snappy. The plot pace moves. I really like this movie a lot. I've heard about this movie, like I said, like 15 years ago. This movie's been stuck on DVD for the longest time, and I just kind of had given up that it was ever going to get a Blu-ray release, but now it finally has. Wag the Dog. If you're into political satire, if you're into politics at all, this is one. It really is very well written. It's this release here has a 4K restoration from the original camera negative. It's got a featurette from Washington to Hollywood, a featurette including interviews with Barry Levinson, Jane Rosenthal, Tom Brokaw, John Frankenheimer, Dee Dee Myers, Bud Schulberg, Chris Hagedis, D.A. Pennebaker, the documentarian, and others. Audio commentary by Barry Levinson and Dustin Hoffman. Original theatrical trailer. Yeah, this is one I'm definitely going to be getting. Definitely going to be getting. I'm glad I waited. For it to get a Blu-ray release. So The Human Comet I didn't get to see. This is a movie with Mickey Rooney. The Bad Seed I have seen. Oh my goodness. So The Bad Seed has been available on DVD and Blu-ray for many years from Warner Brothers. This Blu-ray has been available for so long. It's not the best looking Blu-ray originally. So this upgrade here, this remastered upgrade was definitely needed. This movie, I'll bring them up once again because this seems to be turning into the John Waters side podcast. I remember first hearing about this movie, The Bad Seed, in John Waters' stand-up special, or kind of spoken word special, This Filthy World, where he mentioned like The Bad Seed being an influential film for him and his career and for his life. And if you've seen The Bad Seed, you'll kind of understand why. But for those who have not seen The Bad Seed, this is the synopsis of it. Rhoda Penmark is a well-mannered 8-year-old little girl and an efficient, unfeeling killer, and in the spellbinding chronicle of evil, whatever Rhoda wants, she ruthlessly gets. Her mother, Christine, reluctantly made to see her offspring's moral blindness at work, is hearteningly torn between the love for the child she bore and grief for Rhoda's victims. Um, and yeah, I believe this is based on a stage play. This is one of those movies where we've seen a lot of them within the horror genre, where you don't know how to you don't know what to do when it comes to the evils of children. There will be children characters that'll do evil sociopathic things. I'm thinking of The Omen, right? I'm thinking of, and that has a little extra flavor in it because it's the whole, child of the devil thing. But that's a little extra there. But there's going to be another movie that put out by Radiance that we're going to talk about that goes along the same line. Movies like Children of the Corn, any movie that deals with like an evil child character. How do you deal with an evil child character? And this movie is discussing that double-edged sword. You know what I mean? The innocence of a child that you're the parent of, and then but they're also doing evil stuff as well. The Good Son is another one. The movie with Macaulay Culkin and Elijah Wood. It's just an interesting sociological theme is that I'll probably also bring up when we get to Radiance. We'll probably go to Radiance right after this, just for the sake of transitioning. But The Bad Seed is great. Great lines in it. It's directed by Mervyn LeRoy, I believe, and this child is just a sociopath who has no feelings towards the evils of their actions. It's fascinating. The Bad Seed ticks like a time bomb under the skillful direction of Mervyn LeRoy, who cast several Broadway production originals, including Kelly McCormick and Eileen Heckart. Their harrowing performances captured 3 of this suspenseful movie's 4 Academy Award nominations and made this thriller one of the great ones. Originally released on Blu-ray 15 years ago from a substandard film element. Wow, they're beating up their own Blu-ray release. I've never seen that before. I've never seen a company one in their press release mention a previous Blu-ray that they put out that sucks and then bashing it. Never seen that before. But this new one does have an all-new HD master created from 4K scans of the original camera negative. This has a commentary by Patty McCormick and Charles Bush, original Enfant Terrible, a conversation with Patty McCormick, and then theatrical trailer as well. That is the movie The Bad Seed. This is another one I've been holding off to buy for years just because I heard how not so good that Blu-ray was. And I'm like, I kind of want to wait. Hopefully one day they'll re-release it in a better edition. And here it is. Here it is, The Bad Seed. The Wings of Eagles, I believe The Wings of Eagles is another John Ford film. This is actually a quasi-biopic, if you will, starring John Wayne. John Ford and John Wayne teamed up many times throughout their careers together. And this movie I thought this was actually going to be a World War II film. It is not. It's a biopic about Commander Frank Spigweed, who was a pioneer aviator, renowned screenwriter, whose actually works included John Ford's They Were Expendable and A Man of War. And John Wayne portrays this guy who was an aviation pioneer, I believe before, during, and after World War I. He was a pioneer of aviation. Aviation was really in its infancy around that time, specifically within the military, specifically within the Navy. He was a big advocate of including aviation within the Navy, and of course commercial aviation as well, which of course is a regular thing now, as well as aviation in the military. And this is a movie kind of about his life, and all of that, portrayed by John Wayne. John Wayne, if you're a fan, you'll like it. It's a fine movie. It's a fine movie. John Ford was a good director. He and John Wayne knew exactly how to make a movie together. They really did. For special features, this 4K restoration of the movie, Drafty Isn't It, U.S. Army promotional cartoon, and then original theatrical trailer. I didn't get to see Broadway Melody of 1938. But Auntie Mame, I did. I finally got to see Auntie Mame. I've been wanting to watch this movie for so many years. It's getting a 4K Blu-ray. And my goodness, this movie is probably going to look stunning in 4K. Absolutely stunning. So if you've never seen the movie Auntie Mame, it came out in 1958, starring Rosalind Russell. Rosalind Russell, who was probably most well known for being in, let me see, I believe she was in His Girl Friday. That's where I know Rosalind Russell from. And this movie is very similarly um, paced to that movie. Not at all the same type of movie, uh, but in terms of pacing of the dialogue, the deliverance of the dialogue, the the energy that this movie gives off is very similar to a Howard Hawks film. It's not a Howard Hawks film, which was really surprising to me. So, for those of you who have never seen Rosalind Russell, she was in His Girl Friday. She was in The Women. She was, of course, in Auntie Mame. She's in the movie Gypsy. She was in many, many films. She was an excellent, excellent actress. But in the movie Auntie Mame, she plays the title character, Auntie Mame, and she has inherited the guardianship of her brother's son. Her brother has passed away, and she has inherited him to raise him, essentially. And this movie takes place in the 1920s into the 1930s, and it covers several years. It's not a short movie either. The movie's about 2 hours and 23 minutes. Let's see who directed it. So it was directed by Martin DaCosta. And I want to see what else Martin DaCosta has directed, just for the sake of providing more context here. I believe he also worked on the screenplay, or no, he didn't. Um, but if computer is running slower than molasses, I gotta figure out why that's the case. Um, yeah, so Martin DaCosta didn't direct many things. From what I'm seeing here, only 4 directorial things. Um, Plain and Fancy, which was a TV movie, Auntie Mame, The Music Man, which many people know, and then Island of Love. That is it. Interesting. But Auntie Mame is pretty darn excellent in my opinion. I really loved it a lot. Like I said, it's about this character of Auntie Mame. She is an eccentric character, and Rosalind Russell plays her with pep, with energy, with fervor, with just genuine sincerity. And but underneath it all, she can also dial it down to be very serious and to be incredibly contemplative and to be um have deliver a performance that's so multi-layered without being over the top. She can be over the top and then not be over the top, all within seconds of each other. It's one of the greatest performances I think I've ever seen. It's really just extraordinary. The movie is just, and there's so many themes in it with about classism and prejudice and conservatism versus liberalism when it comes to lifestyles and things like that, because she is a very liberal, free spirit of a person, the Auntie Mame character, and her nephew is coming from a more conservative background. And not only that, but the nephew also has someone who is running his estate, I guess a conservator, if you will. So it's kind of like a team of 2 different sides of the spectrum. Auntie Mame, super free spirit liberal. Then there's this other guy who's the conservator of the estate, like I think handles the money aspect of it all. And he's a super conservative, wants the kid to go to like a traditional boarding school and be involved in like traditional aristocratic society and all that kind of stuff. Whereas Auntie Mame wants him to be free and think for himself and go to a more liberal, free thought of a school and all kinds of stuff. But the movie takes place all the way from like 1928 past the stock market crash into the 30s and all kinds of stuff. It's a marvelous movie, an absolute marvelous movie. I absolutely loved it. Um, just wonderful movie. This 2-disc edition here, and I think Auntie Mame had been released previously. Let me check on that. My mind is all over the place, kind of like Auntie Mame's mind is all over the place. Um, yeah, let's see. Yeah, so Auntie Mame had been released on Blu-ray from Warner Archive in 2017, and it's now getting a 4K re-release uh, now. So a much needed upgrade, if you will. I would say, although that 2007 Blu-ray probably looks very nice, but a 4K restoration is a 4K restoration. Let's see, 2 discs. A new 4K restoration from a 12K scan of the original Technorama camera negative. This is going to look amazing. HDR presentation of the movie. There's a new 5.1 audio track as well as the theatrical mono track. The 2026 conversation with Jan Hanslick and David Karger at the 2026 TCM Film Festival. So that would be the one that just happened in April, actually. Was it April or May? I think it was April. I know because I get jealous of everybody who gets to go every single year. There's a reproduction of the original theatrical press book inside the packaging, and this is so it's gonna look, sound, and be fantastic. So I'm super excited about that. So Out of the Past, Auntie Mame, 2 4Ks from Warner Archive are coming. 2 4Ks I'm going to be getting before the end of the year, most definitely. But let's move on to someplace else. Actually, you know what? I mentioned Radiance. We'll go over to Radiance. That's where we will go. Let me, because I already have that up already. There they are. So I've been thinking a lot about Radiance recently because they've been having their various sales over on BarnesandNoble.com and Barnes and Noble in general, and they also been having their summer sale here on their website. Several things have been going out of print, which is always makes me fearful, gives me anxiety. But these titles here are brand new and coming on the horizon. So we've got, was that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 releases from them. I got to see about half of these. So I'll talk about the half I did get to see. Who Can Kill a Child? La Marge or The Margin. Visitor Q, which is a movie we've already talked about. This movie is already getting a Blu-ray release from New Wave Video from our friend John Matthews in Australia. And then now this is getting a Blu-ray release from Radiance as well. And they're also re-releasing Planet of the Vampires. They already released this with a limited edition Blu-ray, as well as re-releasing it in a special edition Blu-ray because the limited edition sold out so fast. Now they are re-releasing it in 4K. As someone who missed out on both of those, I'm not going to miss out on this one. I'm not going to miss out on this one. Then we have The Monster, which is getting a Blu-ray release. And then we have one of the great box sets from Radiance, which is called Fantastique, The Dreams and Nightmares of French Cinema. So I got to see, first of all, I'm going to start right at the beginning with this limited edition 4K release, excuse me, of Who Can Kill a Child, as I get the hiccups here, because I'm not breathing properly. Now, similar to The Bad Seed, like I was just talking about and hinting at, this is the movie I was hinting at, Who Can Kill a Child? And this is another one dealing with evil children in horror films. When did this come out? 1978, I think? 1976. This is a Spanish film from 1976. And I believe all of these are coming out in October. So for the synopsis of the movie, Tom and Evelyn, a young couple from England, plan an idyllic getaway to a remote Spanish island in anticipation of the birth of their third child. When they arrive, they find their destination almost entirely deserted, and the exception of a number of children, all of whom are acting strangely. When the couple begin to find evidence of a number of atrocities on the island, they quickly find themselves embroiled in a terrifyingly battle for survival, as well as being forced to confront a previously unthinkable question. Directed by Narcisco Ibanez Serrador, the legendary master of horror, dubbed the Spanish Hitchcock, Who Can Kill a Child is his undisputed masterpiece and extreme and unbearably tense work that remains deeply shocking in its disregard for societal taboos. With a cult reputation that has continued to grow among genre aficionados since its release in 1976, Who Can Kill a Child is now considered not just as a landmark work of Euro horror, but as one of the greatest horror films ever made. Okay, so after having seen the movie, although that's a little embellished, but I understand the wavelength that they're on, specifically given the context of the time in which this movie came out, in 1976. 1976, this kind of idea, this exploration of idea of the evil child in movies was still relatively a newish concept. 1976, I think, was around the time The Omen would be coming out. which scared the bejesus out of people. And then, of course, I just mentioned The Bad Seed, which was much earlier on. But of course, after this, we would get, Children of the Corn would be in the 80s, later 80s. Um, so this movie is really exploring this frighteningly idea of the unexplainable evils of children. Because there really is no rhyme or reason why the children in this movie are doing what they're doing. It's just happening. This movie also has the unhinged, irksome feeling of the Wicker Man, the original Wicker Man, which also came out in the 70s. It's got that vibe to it, that there's something not quite going right here. Why are things the way they are? It's unexplainable. You're trying to guess and trying to watch the movie at the same time. There's some surreal aspects going on, and maybe some cult things going on. You don't really quite know what's happening in this movie. Kind of reminded me, like I said, a lot of the Wicker Man. Um, it yeah, I don't know. It's got that vibe, that 70s horror vibe, that irksome vibe that it really makes you think. But this release here is a brand new 4K restoration from original 35mm camera negative, presented in Dolby Vision HDR, world premiere on 4K. Let's see, Island of Death option to watch the US theatrical cut of the film, which removes the controversial prologue. Option to view the English audio, Spanish audio, and alternate English dub. New audio commentary with Jonathan Rigby and Kevin Lyons. New visual essay by Spanish horror expert Alex Mendibel? Yeah, Mendibel. Archival Spanish interview and programs. Archival interview with Kim Newman on the Killer Kids in movies. I think that's a better way to say it. Trailer, radio spots, subtitles, all that stuff. There's a pull-out poster with 6 lobby cards as well. Limited edition 40-page perfect bound book. And there's a limited edition of 5,000 copies. And yeah, that's this release. Who Can Kill a Child? Yet again, similar vibes to The Bad Seed. It's kind of battling with this idea of, like, what do you do with evil children? Can you harm them? Should you harm them? Is there a moral gray area? What does it do to you on a psychological level? There's a whole also, like, thematic thing going on in this movie about other themes, and I don't want to get into because I don't want to spoil it too much. But there's a lot going on in this movie other than just the horror aspect of it all. But moving on from Who Can Kill a Child, I quickly want to talk about the Marge, or the Margin, La Marge. This movie is fascinating. Needless to say, not a lot of people really like this movie on Letterboxd. I kind of understand why. It's engrossingly slow, not a lot of plot going on. It's way more psychological than it is plot-wise, and it's kind of just a series of sexual encounters, or repeated sexual encounters between these two characters. So, Sigismund enjoys a romantic, sexually fulfilling relationship with his wife, Sergine. In an idyllic countryside, the happy couple raise their young son with the help of their maid Feline. On a business trip to Paris, Sigismund casually picks up a sex worker, but in the noisy modern city, their bond soon deepens into a passionate affair. While Sigismund puts off reading a letter from Feline, starring 2 major sex symbols, Valerian Borowitz's exquisite adaptation of André Pierre de Mandelagu's Mandelake's novel balances art and erotica in an embodied meditation on pleasure, love, and transactional relationships, soundtracked by 1970s synth rock acts including Elton John, 10cc, and Pink Floyd. There is a scene in this movie, a sexual scene, mind you, that is done to the tune of the opening of Pink Floyd's "Shine On You Crazy Diamond." At least I believe it is "Shine On You Crazy Diamond," which notoriously has a 5-minute just instrumental opening. It's a long song, by the way, and yeah, it is. I never thought I'd see a scene like that. But anywho, this movie is incredibly erotic, incredibly sexually themed, and it's about this guy in this obsessive affair with this sex worker, and the complications psychologically and physically that go with all of that. This release has a 4K restoration by Studio Canal, 4K UHD, SDR, and Blu-ray presentation of the feature. uncompressed mono PCM audio with French and English audio options. There's a director's cut that's on the Blu-ray only and exclusive to this edition. New visual essay by critic and author Sam Deegan. New appreciation by director and cinematographer Sean Prince Williams. Brief on Paris, commissioned by German broadcaster ZDF. The 16mm short film by Borowitz. Borowitz. Borowitz was shot in the French capital during the release of La Marge. Deanna from Amsterdam. This behind-the-scenes footage on the set of La Marge, shot on 8mm by camera operator Noel Very, is narrated by star Sylvia Christel. Interview with La Marge camera operator Noel Very and assistant director Andrea Heinrich. Interview with film critic and Borowitz collaborator Noel Simsolo. Alternate scenes from the UK version called The Street Walker. That's a little on the nose. Image gallery, subtitles. There is a booklet here too. Yeah, there's a booklet here as well. 5,000 copies. That is La Marge or The Margin. And that is an interesting movie. Let's see. What else do we have here from Radiance? We have a couple of other releases. I think there's one more release I got. Oh, Visitor Q. I've seen Visitor Q. So just Visitor Q. We talked about this movie already. I'm just going to go through the special features because they may be different than the one from New Wave Video. New transfer from the original master beta tape. Audio commentary by Miike biographer Tom Mess. Newly filmed interview with director Takashi Miike. Stars Kenichi Endo and Shoku Nakahara. Mother's Milk, Visitor Q, and the Feminine Principle. New visual essay by Kat Ellinger. And that is it. And that is it. Yeah. So we talked about Visitor Q already, so we don't have to talk about it again. I do want to, before we move on here, so this will probably just quickly look at Planet of the Vampires. I'm just curious if there's anything new when it comes to special features. I don't think so. Other than the 4K restoration, which they may have already used for the Blu-ray, so I don't even know if that's new. I'm just quickly looking here. Wow, this is going to be another stacked release. Yeah, I'm just quickly looking over here. So if you have the Blu-ray release, I don't know if you necessarily have to upgrade to the 4K, but if you don't have it, like me, you may want it. It is a Bava film, so it's probably well worth owning especially if you're a Bava fan. Let's see. Let me move. So I did not get to see The Monster, but I did want to talk about this box set here because it's got Fantastique, Dreams and Nightmares of French Cinema. I just want to list off the movies that are in this set. So we have Dans la Nuit, La Nuit Fantastique, Le Diable Souffle, The Golem, and The Woman with Red Boots. I added 3 Lives and Only One Death. I added all of these to my letterbox, but I didn't get a chance to watch any of them. Yet again, this was just a stacked week of stuff. I just wanted to make people aware of this release. And then The Monster, I figured we'd talk about this. It's a film by Luigi Zampa. Let's see. Valerio is a struggling reporter with a failed marriage and withdrawn son. He is angry at the world and arrives and strives for more. In the newspaper's mail, he receives the opportunity he's been waiting for. A serial killer announces and later carries out a series of grisly murders. Valerio remorsefully uses his opportunity to improve his position and standing, but will he draw himself too close to the killer? From veteran director Luigi Zampa, The Monster is a satirical giallo with deeper commentary on the nature of the press in society. Oh, that's fascinating. 2K restoration of the movie, audio commentary with certain giallo experts, interviews with the stars, and then an interview with Italian film expert Richard Dyer, and that is it. Of course, booklet as well. But that is the movie The Monster. So that is it for Radiance. I think from here we'll go over to Imprint. Yeah, might as well go to Imprint. Imprint's got too much. Imprint gives me headaches because they'll just drop so much at you. So I've been thinking about how to handle the Imprint releases lately, just because there's so much of them and they're all heavily detailed. And to go through each one individually takes so much time here on Chasing Labels. I've been trying to, the goal here is to keep the show under 4 hours. Um, but with Imprint, that's damn near impossible. But I do want to at least point out these releases, especially these releases here, these movies. So they have their Imprint 40s and 50s August bundles. They have the Imprint 50s and 60s August bundle, and then they have the Tales of Adventure Collection 12 and Essential Film Noir Collection 7 August bundles as well. So we're talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Was that 11 releases for just the month of August? That's a lot of releases. I don't know how they do it. And then they also have two TV or just one TV. No, I think they have two TV announcements as well, which we don't really talk about. But just for the sake of my sanity, we'll be brief. We'll be as brief as I can be. So we'll start with the 40s and 50s bundles, because I love movies from the 40s and 50s, 60s and 70s. That's kind of my main passion, is watching a lot of those movies, talking about them, analyzing them, all that kind of stuff. That's really what I love so much. And these are some good ones. I didn't get to see We Were Strangers. No, I did see We Were Strangers. So We Were Strangers is a John Huston film. Um, yeah, this is a movie about um, the Cuban Revolution. Well, at least an earlier revolution that was done in, I want to say, the 1930s. Yeah, the 1930s. So Cuba's been rife with political issues for many decades now. So this is not so much the revolution that happened with Fidel Castro and all that stuff. This is one that happened beforehand to oust the current president in the 1930s. This in this movie, Jennifer Jones plays a woman whose brother, I think, is part of the revolution, and he gets killed, and that makes her want to join the revolution, and join this underground political groups and stuff like that to contribute to ousting the current president of Cuba during the 1930s of that time. And yeah, it's directed by John Huston. If you don't know the political context of the movie, it's a little tough to get into it. John Garfield is in the film as well. It's you got to be kind of like into all that political historical thriller type of stuff. Um, so that's We Were Strangers. Actually, I have to go over to the individual releases because painfully they do not list off the special features here for any of this. I mentioned it last time when we had Rachel on. I think I mentioned it before. I am not a fan of the way they structure their website here. I spelled strangers wrong. You all get to laugh at me for that. Let's see. So We Were Strangers. I'm just curious what we have for special features here. Imprint has put out a John Huston box set previously. John Huston's films tend to get a lot of Blu-ray releases, a lot of them. Let's see, for special features, nothing. Okay, right on. If you're a fan of John Huston and you're a John Huston completist like myself, chances are you're going to need to get this movie. Let's see, I believe it was Ladies in Retirement is an excellent film. It came out in 1941. This movie is excellent. Not a great title for the movie, but the movie itself makes up for that. It's a bit of a melodrama. Ellen Creed is a housekeeper and companion to her old friend Lenora Fisk, a wealthy retired actress living in the English countryside. When Ellen's eccentric sisters visit their sibling at Lenora's home, tensions soon lead to murder. So what happens in this movie is Ellen, who is portrayed exquisitely by Ida Lupino, she basically is kind of a live-in maid or live-in caretaker to this elder woman that she knows, and she is taking care of like the house and stuff like that. Basically, like an assistant, if you will, and and one day, basically, she has to take in her two sisters who are a little bit eccentric. They're a little bit eccentric. Basically, her sisters have to come live with her because if not, they're going to be put in a sanatorium, if you will. Essentially, because they're like that, if you will. And her sisters are kind of the worst house guests you can have. They don't respect your things. They stay too long. They break your things. They put things in place they're not supposed to, and they're doing like crazy stuff. Like one sister brings in a whole bunch of rocks and just throws them down on top of a table. Another one brings in a pile of wood and just throws them down on the floor. I mean, they're breaking like valuable items. It's a mess, right? And the Ida Lupino and the elder lady who owns the home is basically they got to go. They can't stay here anymore. And Ida Lupino's like, please, can they stay? I mean, they got no other place to go. I've got no place to put them. I've got no money to afford to put them somewhere. And basically, the Ida Lupino character decides to get rid of the elder lady, and the complications ensue after that. I won't give anything else. But Ladies in Retirement is it's not a great title for this really good movie. And this whole movie is set inside of this house. It's very play-like. It's almost noir-esque. I would say I would categorize this as a film noir. I really would. It's directed by Charles Vidor. Charles Vidor, I think, is an underrated director, in my opinion. Let me pull up his credits here on IMDb really quickly. So Charles Vidor directed the movie Gilda. Talk about film noir. That's one of the film noirs of film noir. He also directed Love Me or Leave Me, A Song to Remember. I think kind of an underrated director. Let me see. CoverGirl also with Rita Hayworth. Gilda also with Rita Hayworth as well. Many films actually. But anywho, Gilda obviously being one of the more notorious ones. That's getting a 4K release from Criterion. It's just an upgrade of their regular Blu-ray, but it's Rita Hayworth in 4K. You can't really pass that up. But this movie, Ladies in Retirement, I thought was really, really good. Let's see, it's an adaptation of a 1939 Broadway play. That's probably why it feels very play-like. Unfortunately, no special features. No special features. That's unfortunate. All right, so those are kind of two of the highlights for me. Let me see what else. Let me go back to the bundle here. Oh, Home of the Brave. Home of the Brave is really good. Home of the Brave is a war film dealing with PTSD, but also racial prejudice as well. This movie's really good. From producer Stanley Kramer, who was, of course, not shy about politically tinged films at all. This is also directed by Mark Robson, who did Valley of the Dolls. He did more than that, but that's what they credited him for here. Comes one of Hollywood's first films to confront racism head-on, adapted by legendary screenwriter Carl Foreman from the play by Arthur Lawrence. And let's see, Private Peter Moss returns from a dangerous reconnaissance mission on a Japanese-held island, paralyzed, yet doctors can find nothing physically wrong with him. As an army psychiatrist probes his memories of the jungle terror, lost friends, and a lifetime of prejudice, one question remains. Can Moss confront the true source of his paralysis and walk again? So, this Private Peter Moss is an African-American man, and he's been dealing with racism throughout his life. Pre-war, while he's in the military, and also he's been dealing with the horrors of war as well. This is World War II. Many of us know the horrors that go on during that war. Loss of life and just combat action, stuff like that. And he basically gets PTSD from it. And keep in mind, we didn't call it PTSD, I think, until after Vietnam. I remember in World War One, after World War I, it was called shell shocked. That's what they would call PTSD. And after World War One, they would call it shell shocked. I forgot what they called it in World War II, but it wasn't. It was a different name for it. But PTSD is a relatively modern concept in terms of labeling, psychological trauma. And This movie's very much dealing with that. This movie's very well acted. Lloyd Bridges is in the film. Um, it's well directed. It's contemporary, really, because we're still dealing with racism. We're still dealing with prejudice, and I would say misogyny as well. Add that into the mix when it comes to the military in modern times. Um, we're still dealing with racism in the military, in the world. I mean, these themes are never ending, people. When we're not progressing as a society enough to where these movies are no longer becoming relevant. They're still relevant. This release here actually has some features. We have a new audio commentary by filmmaker slash historian Steve Mitchell. Best Plays Home of the Brave, 1952 radio adaptation starring Ronald uh, Bucca, Joseph Julian, and Russell Hardy. And then that is it. So yeah, Home of the Brave. I definitely recommend people checking that out. For the last film here, well, we have The Men. This is a movie I don't even really. I'm not sure if there's gonna be any features on this, but The Men is, I want to say Marlon Brando's first film. Or yeah, why is it not popping up here? Oh, there it is, 1950. I think it's his first film. This movie is directed by, oh my goodness, Elia Kazan. No, directed by Fred Zinnemann. Sorry, directed by Fred Zinnemann. I was getting my Marlon Brando confused. Marlon Brando makes his stellar screen debut in the powerful drama from Academy Award-winning director Fred Zinnemann, written by Carl Foreman and produced by Stanley Kramer. This movie is dealing with Ken Wilczek, a young infantry lieutenant, is paralyzed from the waist down by a sniper's bullet in the final days of World War II. Embittered and withdrawn in the paraplegic ward of a veterans hospital, Ken refuses to see his devoted fiancée Ellen until a straight-talking doctor and his fellow patients begin the long, painful work of pulling him back to life. Once again, dealing with a rather contemporary thing of wounded soldiers and the physical and mental toll it takes to get them rehabilitated or uh, rehabilitated to some extent, if you will. Sometimes, you'll never be truly the way you were beforehand, so you can only reach a certain point. So this movie's kind of, dealing with those things. I remember this movie getting an Olive Films Blu-ray release a long time ago. So this is a welcomed re-release of this movie. There's a new audio commentary by film scholar Alan K. Rodi, One Stop Before Desire, an interview with film critic Julie Kurgo, archival audio commentary with screenwriter Carl Foreman, and a theatrical trailer. That is it for this bundle. And then the 50s and 60s bundle has a lot more films that I did not get to see. So I don't know if we need to go through every single one of them. I will say, just for the sake of time, we've got Never Say Goodbye is a Rock Hudson film. Rock Hudson is one of my favorite actors, and one of my collecting journeys is to get all the Rock Hudson films. This would make, yeah. So we've got. Let me go back actually. So we've got Never Say Goodbye. If I could just click, it'd be so much easier if I could click on it. Yeah, they're all over the place. Let's see. Scrolling. Because I'm more interested in the special features, even if I haven't seen the movies yet. Yeah, these are... Okay. I'll do it just for this one. Never Say Goodbye. No special features on this, unfortunately. But it is a Rock Hudson film. I've got to get all the Rock Hudson movies. I'm so far behind on a lot of his stuff. Let's see. I almost wish I had 3 screens. The more I do this, the more I wish I had 3 screens. Let's see. Yeah, the only way to do this properly is I've got to go to the original. Yeah. So here's Fear Strikes Out. Which is a I believe it's a biopic of Jimmy Pearsall, who was a Major League Baseball player. Yeah, there's some special features here, like there's a new audio commentary with Daniel Kramer. Anthony Perkins on Fear Strikes Out. So this is an Anthony Perkins film. That's another one of my favorites. Carl Malden's also in this film, directed by Robert Mulligan, who directed To Kill a Mockingbird. That's why I want to point this out. Um, yeah, so that's why I was interested in this film. Let me go back to this list of films. Sorry, I have to bounce around so much. There's no other way to do this easily. Because it would be Imprint. Listen to me. When you make these bundle, when you have these bundle like parts of your website, put the special features in there, because having to look at the title and then go to the title is kind of a pain. It really, really is, because I want to know the title. I want to know the titles in the bundle, but I don't know the titles in the bundle unless I click on the bundle. But then when you click on the bundle, they don't list the special features for each of the movies. You have to go to the individual movies. What would be actually nice here is if I could click on the movie title and it would take me to the individual movie title. It would take me to the individual movie posting. So therefore I could just look at the special features, as opposed to here, I've got to look at the movie, then I've got to go to the movie. It's just extra steps that are so unnecessary. So I talked about Fear Strikes Out. We have Screaming Mimi, we have The Goddess, and we have A New Kind of Love. And then we have Heller in Pink Tights. And yeah, just for the sake of time, I won't be able to go through the special features for those. And then for the interest of time, I didn't get to see the Adventures box set. Wow, I can't believe I'm on collection 12 at this point. I feel like I was just talking about collection 1 the other day. So collection 12 of the Adventures box set has Escape from Zeron, The Devil at 4 o'clock, Assault on a Queen, and In Enemy Country, and then the Essential Film Noir collection, Volume 7, has Lucky Jordan from 1942, China from 1943, Tangier from 1946, and then Singapore from 1947. If you've been getting these right along, chances are you'll want to get this as well, just to keep the collections going. A lot of the movies that are in the Essential Noir collections have been collected in other boxes from other labels, or they've been released individually from other labels. So a lot of these tend to get released over and over again. I'm pretty sure Lucky Jordan I've seen a couple of times already. I think Lucky Jordan has like a Kino release. So this has kind of been everything from Imprint. We've got their 40s and 50s August bundle. We've got their 50s and 60s August bundle. We've got the Tales of Adventure Collection 12, and we have the Essential Film Noir Collection 7. Sorry I couldn't go over them all in extreme detail. I didn't get to see a lot of these, and it's just for the sake of just my sanity. Just having to go to them individually is just too much. It's just too much to go over, especially since if I haven't seen the movies, I'm not really giving a lot of insight into them. But Umbrella, speaking of movies I haven't seen, I just want to make people aware there is a Human Centipede trilogy set. I haven't seen actually any of these movies. I know of them. I know of their reputation. I know of their notorious reputation, actually. Let's see. If I could, yet again, make it easy on these websites, people. It's ever... I think, hold on, did it freeze? Yeah, the Umbrella site froze on me. Great. Fantastic. Yeah, make it easy on people actually viewing your websites. So there are several versions of the Human Centipede trilogy set. There is a collector's edition, there's a VHS collector's edition, there's a VHS PAL collector's edition, and I'm pretty sure there may be a standard eventually. But I'm pretty sure those of you who have seen these movies know these movies. At least you know the reputation of these movies. These movies have been actually like parodied and satired in pop culture, especially on South Park. They did a parody of it as well. Yeah, check out all the special features if you want to. This is a pretty loaded edition. Obviously, you get all 3 movies. It's a 100-page book, reversible poster, 8 art cards in this collector's edition. Let's see. I believe it's each movie both gets a 4K and a Blu-ray release, similar to what they've been doing with a lot of other like franchise sets. Like we just talked about the one they did for Hatchet. I think they kind of this is kind of similar to that. Of course, they just did like the wrong like I think they did the Wrong Turn movies as well. So it's similar to what they've been doing already. And then the next release that they have is Aura. Um, and this movie Aura I actually watched last night. This is an interesting kind of art house movie from 2005. A somewhat artsy art house movie. So let's see. Shy reclusive taxidermist Esteban Espinoza lives with epilepsy. When not preserving dead animals, he is fascinated by crime and dreams of committing the flawless heist. He unexpectedly gets the chance when he accidentally kills criminal Carlos Dietrich while trying to shoot a deer during a hunting trip with his friend Sontag. The victim had planned to rob an armored car carrying casino profits, and Espinoza assumes his identity and takes over the scheme. His lack of criminal experience and his chronic neurological disease soon puts his life in danger. And that's kind of the general premise of the movie. He doesn't assume the person's identity. He basically just like fakes his way into uh like including himself in the heist. Like he's like, oh yeah, that guy. He said if anything happens to him, I should take over. That's kind of how he gets himself into it. He told me all of his plans. I know all the plans. I know all the details. I'm basically gonna take over for him. He's gone. He didn't tell me where he was going. He didn't tell me anything. He's just gone. Needless to say, or needless to their knowledge, that he's accidentally killed them. but but when I say art house movies, because this movie is a very slow burn, there's this art house surreal vibes to it at times. Um, there's certain sequences that are very slow and dealing with psychological things. It says winner of best director at the Cartagena Film Festival, Clarion Awards and Silver Condor Awards, and nominated for the World Cinema Jury Prize at Sundance. Directed by Fabian Belinsky. And yeah, so this movie has a 48-page book, 48-page book, custom artwork, 48 art cards. No, it's not 48. 8 art cards, reversible poster, limited numbered release, new audio commentary with author and critic Dr. Josh Nelson, Masculinity in Crisis, Alexander Helen Nicholas on the Aura, making a featurette, and then behind the scenes featurette as well. That's the movie. Yeah, that's the movie. It's called El Aura or The Aura from 2005. So we've talked about Imprint, we've talked about Umbrella, we've talked about Radiance, we've talked about Vinegar Syndrome, we've talked about Warner Archive. Let me look at my list of show notes to see where we should move to next. And let's see. We have a couple of Kinos. Yeah, let's go over to Kino. Yeah, let's go over to Kino. Kino, I believe, is still having their summer sale. Or is their summer sale up? I don't know. We shall find out together. I go over to their Facebook page and see what is cooking. Of course, my computer is running slower than absolute molasses. I've got to figure out what the heck is going on here. Let's see. Kino. I think there's only about 3 or 4 Kinos I want to list off, and then we can move on from there. Yeah. So this is something I didn't put on my notes list. The Dream Team is getting a Blu-ray release. Oh, I thought this was a 4K. So brand new HD master from 4K scan of the original 35mm original camera negative. The Dream Team, starring Michael Keaton, Christopher Lloyd, Peter Boyle, Stephen Furst. Directed by Howard Zeff. And this is coming. It just says coming soon. We don't know when. But I already thought the Dream Team had a Blu-ray release. Maybe it's, hold on. That seems like a Universal Blu-ray release from Once Upon a Time. I could be thinking of something else. No, we got a Blu-ray release. Yeah, back in 2016. Oh, it's getting a 4K restoration, so it's going to be new. Yeah, Universal put it out back in 2016. Probably from an older master. Universal loves to use older masters for their catalog stuff. Like, absolutely loves it. And It had no special features or anything like that. So it's absolutely um prime for a re-release. Let's see. We have this movie called The Greatest Manhunt, the silent one, which has the tagline of The Greatest Manhunt Ever Filmed. Um, this is a film starring Lino Ventura, Leo Glenn, Susan Flan, Robert Hardy, Leo Massari, shot by Jean Collin, who did The Crook, The French Detective, directed by Claude Pinault, who did La Semna Sybil. Interesting. Put the ones. Oh, there's the summer sale. What if it says, yeah, there's several movies that are going out of print. No, so while their supplies last, I guess they are going out of print because once they sell out, they're not going to be making any more titles of all of these films. A lot of these movies are movies we've actually talked about here on Chasing Labels. It's kind of incredible how many movies we've talked about from Kino that have been announced, released, and then now Kino is not renewing the rights to them or doesn't have the rights to them sometime soon. And therefore, they'll be gone forever. Not really forever. You could probably still get them, but obviously they won't be making any more new titles of them. Here's the release of this movie. So let's see. I think we've talked about these already. The Counselor, Blazing Magnum, Weapons of Death. These three titles will also be available as part of the Italia Crimo 4K UHD release. Okay, so we have talked about these before. We've talked about them when we talked about that box set. I think they're all getting individual Blu-ray releases too. So if you don't have 4K capabilities in your home theater setup and you just want them on Blu-ray, you can definitely get them all on Blu-ray as well. So that's all of those films. This is what I wanted to start with, actually. The Hurricane. This is the movie starring Denzel Washington. This is the movie directed by Norman Jewison, who directed In the Heat of the Night and A Soldier's Story, but he also directed many other movies. Cincinnati Kid, I think, was a Norman Jewison film. That movie could use a nice re-release, but anywho, that's neither here nor there. But The Hurricane. Now, this is a movie that is really good, starring Denzel Washington. This movie has already been released on Blu-ray previously, so this is going to be a nice release. Yeah, the Blu-ray came out in, oh goodness, it's been released 2014. Yeah, 2014 was the original release, was re-released in 2019. Same disc, same everything. But this release is probably going to have a brand new restoration to it, which is exactly what I'm looking forward to. I think this is kind of an underrated Denzel Washington movie, in my opinion. It's certainly one I think that gets looked over because not soon after this, he would be in Training Day. And Training Day is the movie he would win an Oscar for. So that kind of takes over, all the movies around it. But this is a true story of Reuben Hurricane Carter, a boxer wrongly imprisoned for murder, and the people who aided in his fight to prove his innocence. Like I said, directed by Norman Jewison, who was really a great director, just a really fantastic director. I want to pull up his more of his credits here, just so people can be more aware of who he is as a director. And it's kind of important. I remember him being at the TCM Film Festival a few years ago, and I think it was some anniversary of In the Heat of the Night, where they were showing it there, and truly, a historical film. He made a lot of those types of movies. Let's see. He directed Moonstruck. I forgot about that. Moonstruck, which is Cher, Nicolas Cage. Cher won an Oscar for that film. I know people who watch that movie like religiously. They watch it like every month on a full moon, or every time a full moon comes around. I know so many people who love that movie. He also directed. He directed the movie Fist. Fist, which is a movie starring Sylvester Stallone about truck driving union, I believe. This was such a fascinating movie because it was a serious drama starring Sylvester Stallone. And I think it was I don't think that movie was such a success because after this, he would go on to make, the the Rocky sequels, and he would go on to make the Rambo and the Rambo sequels. He basically pivot to making more action centric movies after this movie. It would be interesting had that movie been a success, had Stallone decided to kind of pivot to make more dramatic films in his career. That would have been interesting. Norman Jewison also directed And Justice for All, the famous Al Pacino film. He also directed Rollerball, which was starring James Caan, which I think is kind of underrated. Um, yeah, the Russians are coming. The Russians are coming, which is great. Kino's put out a release of that. I think they put out a 4K of that as well. Send Me No Flowers. He directed Send Me No Flowers, which is a Rock Hudson and Doris Day film. Tony Randall's in that movie as well. I think it's like one of the Doris Day Rock Hudson movies I need to get, coincidentally. Um, that I've just come across that. I think they're also, speaking of Rock Hudson and Doris Day, I think they're going to be giving Pillow Talk a 4K release, which I'm really excited about. That's probably the Rock Hudson and Doris Day film people remember the most, or people know of the most. Pillow Talk. I think Universal's releasing that straight from them. They're not putting it out via a boutique or anything like that. But yeah, Norman Jewison's The Hurricane is coming out, starring Denzel Washington. Like I said, there's been a Blu-ray since 2014. It was re-released on Blu-ray in 2019, same exact disc. So the fact that it's getting a nice new release is awesome to me. They missed out on the 25th anniversary back in 2024, but let's see. Yeah, and I'm not sure when this is coming out. Just says coming soon on 4K UHD, brand new HDR DV master, and that's it. There's this movie called Murder by the Clock. It's getting a Blu-ray release. Yeah, movie from 1931. I'm always interested in anything that's pre-code. So anything that's, early 1930s, before 1934, 1935, before the Hays Code was instituted. I'm always interested in checking out any of those movies. I'm trying to see if this is directed by anybody I know of. No, it's not. I just thought of maybe somebody prominent. I think that's about it. Or did I? Yeah, I don't think I included that in my notes. We talked about the War Wagon previously, so I'm pretty sure we're good on that. That's getting a 4K UHD release in August 25th. That's the movie starring John Wayne and Kirk Douglas. They've been teasing that for forever. I think since for months. They've been teasing that for months. So that is it for Kino. And I think there's some individual releases I've got to go I got to go dig up. Specifically, I know Hammer's coming out with another release. Let's see, I'm looking at the individual ones I have here. Okay. So, yeah. Sorry, just all the notes are all messed up. I try to separate the notes to where it's like a main group of titles, then the Vinegar Syndrome, then the partner labels. The problem is when I put it into where I have them here on the computer, they mash them all together. so it's just one long column of individual movies, just all together, and it's hard to parry it out if I'm bouncing around. Excuse me. 1, 2. Okay, so yeah, there's a Hammer release called The Abominable Snowman. 24-Hour Party People being released in the UK by Altitude Film, and then Bluebeard, which is a Richard Burton film that's already been released somewhere else, but it's getting a release by Studio Canal. So we're going to talk about that. So those three releases. Okay. So let me go over to the Abominable Snowman. Let's see. So this is the US release, which was done by, looks like Shout Factory. And then this here is the release put out by Hammer coming August 31st in various editions. We have the 4K limited collector's edition. I think that's the 4K standard, and I think there's just a regular Blu-ray. So we're gonna go with the big old head honcho here. We're gonna go with the big old collector's edition, the limited edition collector's edition, and we'll get all the details on that. Let's see. Yeah, look at all of those features. Can they make that font that small? Any smaller, I should say. So this is a 4-disc collector's edition from Hammer. This is one of their big, thick, old, expensive editions. Um, yeah, this is a big one. So let's see. Hammer is preparing a 4K Blu-ray/Blu-ray combo pack release of Val Guest's The Abominable Snowman, starring Forrest Tucker, Peter Cushing, Maureen Connell, Richard Wattis, and Robert Brown. The release is scheduled to arrive on the market on November 9th. Let's see the description they have here. Reteaming Quartermaster creator Nigel Neal and BAFTA-winning director Val Guest, this thrilling fantasy horror has been painstakingly restored by Hammer in 4K from the best available film elements. Okay. Yeah, Hammer's been just absolutely killing it with their releases lately. No pun intended, because Hammer deals with a lot of death and horror and stuff. So Dr. Bollison and his team, on a scientific expedition in the Himalayas, are guests on an isolated monastery. Then a second expedition turns up, intent on trapping the legendary Yeti in a money-making venture. So this movie came out in 1957. This was around the time of The Curse of Frankenstein. I think it was actually the same year. The Curse of Frankenstein was such a big hit that it definitely overshadowed this movie. So this movie is not as well remembered in Hammer's lexicon as The Curse of Frankenstein, which also starred Peter Cushing as well. And then I think like the very next year we would get House of Dracula, which has Christopher Lee. That's actually getting a re-release sometime towards the end of this year. They've unearthed, I think, the uncut footage to make an uncut edition of that movie, to make it longer. And they're going to be giving that, I think, a 4K release later on. So stay tuned for that, because we're definitely going to be talking about it here on Chasing Labels. Because I love all those Christopher Lee Dracula movies. I do. I am a big fan of those. So if they start putting out some of those will be like definitive releases of those movies. I know Warner Archive has put out both The Curse of Frankenstein and House of Dracula. Curse of Frankenstein's gotten a Blu-ray and 4K release. House of Dracula, just a Blu-ray release from years ago. So we shall see what that re-release is going to be looking like I said. But this 4-disc box here looks massive. I don't even know if I can read all this here, but we'll just take a look at what they've got here. So there's two Blu-ray discs. How do I say it? Two 4K Blu-ray discs, two Blu-ray discs in a combo pack release, two iterations of The Abominable Snowman, the widescreen 235:1 UK theatrical version, and the widescreen 235:1 US theatrical version, retitled The Abominable Snowman of the Himalayas. Okay, I don't know why they had to do that. The movie itself is actually rather good. I rather liked it. It's not about. It's one of those movies where this journey to find the Yeti and the Abominable Snowman is kind of more of a MacGuffin than it is important to the plot. It's more about the journey to get there, if you will. There's also several other things going on within the movie. This need for scientific exploration, how far do you push scientific exploration? Is there a moral line between that? The right and the wrong of doing it. Should you cross that line? Do we as humans have the right over nature to push those boundaries? It's asking kind of those bigger types of questions. There's a brand new 5.1 mix of the audio for both versions of the movie alongside the original mono track. There's bunch of subtitles here. New commentary on the movie with comedian Toby Hadoke and Nigel Neal's biographer Andy Murray. New audio commentary on The Abominable Snowman of the Himalayas with cult movie expert Toby Rohn and Serial at Midnight podcaster Heath Holland. I know him. Well, I know his videos. There's an archive of 1999 commentary. There's a new audio essay on the Big Monsters in Film by Stephen R. Bissett. New documentary on the making of The Abominable Snowman with a bunch of people. There's a new documentary on the making on a long since lost TV play, The Creature, on which the Abominable Snowman was based on. There's a new documentary on the design person. There's a new documentary on the cinema's passion for the rampaging cryptids. There's a new video essay by Heath Wixon on the why less is more in films with big monsters and how Val Guest put that theory into practice. There's archival interviews with Val Guest from 2002. This packaging is going to have, it's going to be a thick package with a booklet as well, 120-page book, not a booklet, with new articles by so many people. This is a massive set. This is going to be up there with one of the big collectors of sets to get for 2026, in my opinion, because it's just so stacked full of stuff. So that's the Abominable Snowman 4K Collector's Edition. There's going to be a more standard 4K release and then just a regular Blu-ray release as well of that. And then we're going to go talk about 24-Hour Party People, which is a movie I heard about years ago. It does have a Blu-ray here in the US from 2019, and does have a Blu-ray in the UK as well from 2020 or 2019, sorry. And then 24-Hour Party People is getting a 4K UHD upgrade. Now, this movie stars Steve Coogan. Of course, it does not have the press release. Let me go over to the film forum or the Blu-ray.com forum to see if it has any details. Yeah, here it is. So 24-Hour Party People is totally inspired by this pivotal moment in music history. He and his friends set up a record label, Factory Records, and proceed to sign a number of local bands destined to be some of the most influential artists of their time. First, Joy Division, who go on to become New Order. Then come the Happy Mondays. What ensues is a blackly comic tale of music, sex, drugs, larger-than-life characters, and the birth of one of the most famous dance clubs in the world, the Hacienda. Told through the eyes of one man who was in the center of it all, 24-Hour Party People graphically documents the vibrancy that made Manchester the place to be. Celebrating 24 years since the release of Michael Winterbottom's iconic 24-Hour Party People makes a much heralded return on 4K UHD. This movie has theatrical trailer, featurettes, New Order promo, portrait of a filmmaker, and then English subtitles. What this doesn't tell you is the movie that this person is based on. And it does not tell you that. I will graciously look it up to tell you all if my computer will not be slower than dial-up internet. 24-Hour Party People. Like I said, starring Steve Coogan. This movie came out in 2002, and it's directed by Michael Winterbottom. Steve Coogan plays Tony Wilson, based off of a real life person. He was a music producer, club owner. He started the club, the Hacienda. He started the Factory Records, the record label. They had Joy Division, and this movie really chronicles the music scene in Manchester, England, from, I would say, the late 1970s all the way up through like the early 1990s. So it's like that whole scene. It's like punk rock scene in the UK is featured in the film a lot, and the changing of the 80s music scene as well, changing of the nightclub scene in the music scene as well. The introduction of a lot of different type of hallucinogenic drugs and cocaine in the 80s and all kinds of stuff like that, and like speed and things like that. This movie chronicles a lot of that. And Steve Coogan is a rather magnetic and rather really solid actor. I know Steve Coogan more so for his work in the Trip movies, where it's basically just him playing a rather kind of somewhat fictionalized version of himself, but maybe more of a real life version of himself. I know him more as being a comedic actor, and there's a lot of comedy in this. But he was also in Stephen Frears' Philomena, which I think is one of the last like great films from both Stephen Frears and as well as Steve Coogan. Let me see. Yeah, he was in Alan Partridge. He was in Stan and Ollie. It's not a great. What is the Trip movies? I know they made several of them. I think Michael Winterbottom directed those as well. Yeah, because there's the trip to Greece in 2020. I think that's the most recent one. And then the trip to Spain from 2017. And then, let's see, the trip to Italy. And then Philomena came out in 2013. I can't believe that was that long ago. And let's see, he was in Ruby Sparks. I forgot that. Yeah, the trip came out in 2010. And that starts off that whole series of movies. Steve Coogan has been asked by the Observer to tour the country's finest restaurants, but after his girlfriend backs out on him, he must take his best friend and source of eternal aggravation, Rob Brydon. I, yeah, Michael Winterbottom directed this, and I think he directed the other ones too. But that's where I know Steve Coogan from. But he was also in Hamlet 2. Just he's an actor. Once you see him, you know him. Once you see him, you know him. But yeah, 24-hour Party People is an interesting, fascinating kind of overall survey look of an interesting historical time in the music biz, specifically in Manchester, England. Let's see what else I've got here to talk about in my notes. I think I've got. Let's see. We've got one more. Yeah, I want to talk about Bluebeard. Yeah. Let's see. Where are you? Yeah, Bluebeard with Studio Canal. That's what I was looking. I was looking at it. Forgot which company it was. Let's go and take a look. So there's the one with. So there's the 1972 film, the one with Richard Burton. That came out from Shout Factory in 2021, and it's getting a 4K release from 4K and Blu-ray release from Studio Canal through their Cult Classics line. Their Cult Classics line dealing with older films, dealing with films that are you know they're classics. Yeah. They have a Cinema Classics line. They have a Cult Classics line. I forgot that um Studio Canal has got all these kind of sub labels because I just see Studio Canal and I'm just like, that's a Studio Canal release. So, Baron von Sepper is an Austrian aristocrat who lives in austere obscurity in a large castle. He has just married his seventh wife, Anne, to whom he seems most ardently attached. One day, she finds a mysterious golden key which gives access to a secret passage where she finds Bluebeard's 6 previous wives. It is then that the Baron recounts to her the horrid and bizarre tales of his past. It remains for Anne to fight for her survival and to avoid becoming just another beautiful frozen body. Directed by Edward Dmytryk, who was just such a career workman director. His name pops up on so many movies. You're like, oh, I recognize that name. It's Edward Dmytryk. Chances are you've seen an Edward Dmytryk movie somewhere along the way. Let me see if I can find some special features for this release. There it is. Okay, so we've got new 4K restoration of the original camera negative, Dolby Vision HDR presentation of the film, new interview with Anne Bogutsakaya? Sakaya? Yeah. Audio commentary by film historians Howard S. Berger and Nathaniel Thompson. Making a Difference, Gene Porter Dmytryk on Edward Dmytryk, 12-page booklet with a new essay by Peter Raleigh, new artwork by Thomas Hodge, optional SDH subtitles for the main feature. Yeah, that is it for Richard Burton in Bluebeard from 1972, directed by Edward Dmytryk, 4K UHD release, put out by Studio Canal. Now, before I'm suspiciously wondering why, if I've missed anything. Let's see. We've talked about Kino, we've talked about Umbrella, we've talked about Imprint, we've talked about Radiance, we've talked about Hammer, we talked about Altitude Film with Studio Canal. We just talked about all the Warner Archive stuff, Out of the Past, Auntie Mame, all those good ones. Let's see. We've talked about the Vinegar Syndrome and the Vinegar Syndrome partner labels releases. Just making sure I didn't forget any of them. Let's see. That is about it. Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. I'm so used to chasing labels being damn near 4 hours long that I forgot that we can have an episode that is not that long every once and a while. So I believe that is it. Let me take a look at my other set of notes just to make triple sure because I'm forgetting. I'm concerned that I'm forgetting something really big. Uh, but even if I do forget something, I can always do an addendum to this episode anyways. Or yeah, that's the one thing when it comes to running your own podcast, your own YouTube channel, or your own anything really. You can kind of make up your own rules. I mean, there are rules you like to stick to them, but sometimes you can do stuff. Um, um, yeah, I do. There are some comments here. JB44 says, "I gotta admit, I'm interested in the Centipede trilogy just out of morbid curiosity. Those movies are ones I kind of want to watch if they're streaming on Shutter or something like that. Like just like you said, the curiosity, really, because of the notorious nature of their of of what they are. And then, of course, though I know better, I really shouldn't. Yeah, it's also kind of disgusting. But what is interesting when it comes to horror and stuff like that, I'm not really that squeamish anymore. I've watched so much of it, and I guess this is there's a little addendum here to the show. Just talking about making up my own rules. I saw the most recent Evil Dead movie, Evil Dead Burn, as of this recording, and it's probably the most violent of all the Evil Dead films. People are comparing it to the French extremism of the 2000s, which we've talked about here many times. High Tension, Martyrs, Inside. We've talking about so many of those because those have been getting a lot of Blu-ray releases over the years. Heck, we talked about I forgot. Is it Umbrella has been putting out? Is it Umbrella or Imprint? They've been putting out the extreme box sets. One of the two have been putting out those extreme box sets. So all of those movies are in there, and the new Evil Dead is very similar in graphic nature to those movies. And while watching it, I'm like, oh, these remind me of those movies. And since I've seen those movies, I'm almost desensitized to what was going on in that movie. For any of you who've seen the most recent Evil Dead film, or if you're just a fan of Evil Dead in general, you'll understand the graphic nature of the movies, of that universe, of Sam Raimi films, of Sam Raimi films of all kinds. Um, he's never been one to shy away from graphic violence in his movies, and the more modern Evil Dead films, of course, have been incredibly graphic because they're part of the way they've been going with that franchise and with that genre. But yeah, let me remove myself here and put myself back on the main stage. And yeah, that is kind of it here for Chasing Labels. Nothing really else to talk about here. There's my little thing about Evil Dead there towards the end. But yeah, coming up here on Chasing Labels, we have, of course, like I mentioned earlier, the Unwatched Pile was coming up this weekend. We have the Unwatched Pile on the 18th, and then Movies Down Memory Lane on the 19th. And I still have to pick my movie for the Unwatched Pile. And then on the 19th, we'll be talking about Memento. Sometime, hopefully soon, we will be talking about Criterion releases for the month. We'll be doing some reviews for those once, possibly. Oh, speaking of which, the Criterion sale is still going on at Barnes & Noble. It's going on at Barnes & Noble in-store on their website. Amazon's been price matching all of their stuff as well. I did do a little bit of buying myself, and I want to do a whole actual video of it, so this will be a little sneak preview for those of you watching here and don't want to wait for that. Let me go get them. Hold on. Okay, so I did get a big cup. I got about 6 of them to start off quickly here because I do have some little extra time here. Life of Brian, the 4K UHD of that. Stray Dog, the 4K UHD of the Akira Kurosawa film. Hairspray, which we've talked about. We've done reviews on both of these releases, Stray Dog as well as Hairspray. House Party, the 4K UHD of House Party. We've done a review on this already as well. and Trouble in Paradise. I think we did a review of this. I think Steven got this and he did a review of it. And so those are all up here on Chasing Labels. And then Defending Your Life. This is an Albert Brooks film, which I've been really wanting to see. So many people going into the Criterion Closet have picked up Albert Brooks' film. Albert Brooks is Defending Your Life and his films in general. So I wanted to get this and add it to the collection. But there will be more coming for the sale that's going on through the rest of the month. Just wanted to preview these. I kind of wanted to do an individual. I think I may do a video when I get everything. Just do one video of all the pickups I get towards the end. I did not do the in-store video this time. I figured everybody had seen that already so many times over. I've been doing it for like 10 years. And it's the same setup every single time in the store. They never really do anything new or interesting. But yeah. So that's all those criterions. Yeah, that is it here for Chasing Labels. So thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening. You can obviously watch the replay here on YouTube. You can listen to the audio here on YouTube. The audio is also available on pretty much everywhere podcasts can be found. Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, any of those other places. Yeah, stay tuned for the other things we've got going here on Chasing Labels. And hey, keep on watching those movies because I know I will.